Yvonne Gathing and her daughter Giovanna Bedford are suing neighbors Veronica Hill, Essie Grayson, and Charles Bowie for vandalizing their Halloween decorations. The defendants are countersuing over the sale of a car.
Order. All rise. Your Honor, this is case number 433 on the calendar in the matter of Bedford Gathing versus Hill, Grayson, Bowie. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. Be seated.
Who is Miss Bedford?
I am.
Whose home is it?
Mine.
You're Miss Gathing?
Yes.
According to your complaint, you do an elaborate Halloween lawn house decoration. These are your neighbors.
Yes.
And for some reason, which you will explain to me, which I seem to get the gist of here, there is now bad blood between the two neighbors. And it is your claim that somebody on their team, probably this young lady right here, you're Veronica?
Yes.
Vandalized your Halloween decorations. And you want them to be responsible for that and for the harassment that they've caused you.
Yes.
Whose car was it?
It was my car, Your Honor.
You're Giovanna.
I'm Giovanna.
So let me try to explain to Bird, because if Bird can get it, we all can get it. Giovanna had a car. What kind of car did you have, Giovanna?
A 1994 Buick Roadmaster station wagon.
And you lived with Miss Gathing. You related?
That's my mother.
Great. Then you got tired of living with your mother, and you left, leaving your old car at her house.
Yes. Yeah.
And you left it there for about 8 months.
No, I actually left the car there because it was not running.
Just a second. I said you left it there for about 8 months.
Yeah, I was gone for about 8 months.
That's what I read. While you were gone, your mother got disgusted with looking at this car that was in her house, and she sold the car to whom?
Me.
And you are?
Charles, last name Bowie.
She sold the car for $500, and it wasn't running. Is that right, Mr. Bowie?
Yes, ma'am.
He took the car, saved up some money, and then invested, according to him, about $1,300 in the car to get it running. So far, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Then you come home. You found out that the car had been sold by your mother to Mr. Bowie.
I found out from actually Miss Grayson that the car was sold.
And you wanted it back?
Yeah, I told them however much it was paid for, whatever the amount was, that I would be happy to give it back to them. They refused, being so that I owed payments on the car. I did the next best thing.
Well, let me ask you this question. You owed payments on the car to the dealership?
Yes.
Were you paying them every month during the time that the car was sitting at your mother's house?
Yeah.
Look at me. I'm sure you have proof of that.
I don't have proof, but only thing my dealer did was he did give me a copy of the pink slip to show you, and he wouldn't have given that to me if I wasn't credible for it. He did give me a copy of it. Only last payments I had was 2 last payments in the amount of $400.
Did you pay off the car?
No.
When were you supposed to pay off the car?
Actually, I don't remember the last ending date, which was this happened in what, 06, about the beginning, middle of 07.
You following this story?
Yeah.
You're getting this story now?
I got it.
That's a lot of what ifs. I don't know.
Because I don't have the dates, Your Honor. I don't.
You didn't finish paying off the car.
No, I did not.
Who has the car now?
I do.
And the dealer gave you the pink slip for the car?
Yes, he did. A copy of the pink slip. And I have that if you want to see that.
You must have a very nice relationship
Yes,
with
I
the
do.
dealer.
Yes,
must
I
be
do.
a very nice relationship. Now, Miss Gathing,
Yes, ma'am.
what made you think that you could sell this car to Mr. Bowie?
Actually, I thought the car was paid for.
So you were mistaken.
Yes, I was.
When you sold the car to Mr. Bowie, did you lead him to believe that you had the right to sell the car?
Yes, I did.
Well, it wasn't your car to sell, right?
Yes, my name is on the car also. That's why I felt I could sell the car.
Oh, really? Let me see.
And I was under the assumption that my daughter had paid the car off in full.
Well, in effect, she has, because they gave her the pink slip for the car, so whatever arrangement she worked out with the
Yes.
car dealership, right?
Yes, that's correct.
And you absolutely have the right to sell it.
Yes.
Car has to go back to him.
No, the car is not paid for, Your Honor.
Just a second.
Yeah.
The car is not paid for. I just got that pink after the fact that I had before I even took
You
the
know,
car
you're a
back from
scam
them.
artist. You're a scam artist because your mother did have the right to sell this
No,
car.
she
I'm
didn't.
speaking. Well, yes, she did.
It wasn't
Of course.
paid for.
Listen to me. I am speaking. Do you understand? When I speak, you don't. According to the title to this car, it was Giovanna Bedford or Yvonne Gathing. Not and, or. that means that either one of you had the right to sell the car, and according to you, you were supposed to pay off the car in dollars. You never did. The owner of this Baseline Auto Center, for whatever reason, which I'm particularly not interested in, decided that he forgave the rest of the debt.
No, that's not even the original pink. The original pink has my signature. He did that. Yeah, he still has the original pink there. He did that just for the efforts when the police came. He told me, since they had my car...
Don't tell me what he told you. That's hearsay. Your mother ostensibly... I'm speaking. Your mother ostensibly had the right to sell this car to them. Therefore, you are responsible to him for $1,300 if he can establish that he put in...
Okay.
I'm speaking... money into the car totaling $1,300, because if he did, based upon your representation and the title, and what she says to me about, well, they're not coming after me for the payments on this car anymore.
Yeah, they are, Your Honor.
Yes.
I'm still...
Show me.
I'm still making payments on the car.
Just a second.
Still making
I
payments.
asked you, when was the last time you made a payment? You know what you said to me? Maybe
You said when was the car supposed to be paid off? It was.
When was the last time you made a payment on the car? Very easy for me to call and find out. What month and year?
It's been a while. It's been a while. Because we didn't know where the car was. My dealer didn't know where the car was. I didn't know where the car was. When I found out they had the car, he told me, he sent me an extra pair of keys and told me...
Show me when the last time you made a payment on this car. It was sitting for 8 months.
Yeah, and it's been every bit of 8 months since I made a payment. I couldn't pay for a car that I didn't know where it was at.
Ask your mother.
She didn't tell me.
Left it.
She didn't tell me. She told me, my mother told me something different. Honestly, she told me something different.
Then you're telling me that your mother's a liar. Just a second. Is what you're telling me... I'm speaking. Is what you're telling me that your mother, madam, is a liar?
Yeah, because she told me something different.
Well, evidently she lied to him, too.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
You decorated a haunted house, and one of the things was something I don't want to know about, and you want to tell me what happened to the dead body with the casket and the shoes.
Gathing and daughter Giovanna Bedford say that neighbors Veronica Hill, Essie Grayson, and Charles Bowie destroyed their Halloween decorations. The plaintiffs claim the harassment stems from a car sale gone bad.
Okay, can I see the bills, please, for the car? Your daughter's a scammer.
No, I'm not. I can't back out.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because she's lying to me. No car dealer allows you to keep a car if you haven't made payment in a year. And you can't
I have a very good rapport with him. You can call him.
I'm sure you have a wonderful rapport with him.
We didn't know where the car was at.
I am absolutely positive you have a wonderful rapport with him.
We didn't know where the car was at. I had no idea. My mother knew. I was gone. I moved to New York. I came back. I asked my mother, Judge. I asked her. I did not know
where the car was.
Listen to me.
She knew, but she didn't tell me.
One of the things that your daughter knew was that she had a car.
Yes.
I'm
sorry. Excuse me.
One of the things your daughter knew was that she had a car that had payments on it, which she wasn't making. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
She knew that when she moved to New York.
Yes.
She knew that when she didn't make a payment the months of August, September, October, November, December, January, February, March. That she knew.
I know.
I'm speaking despite her rapport with the auto dealership. Do you understand?
I do.
Very good.
But I told my dealer, he worked with me, Your Honor, because I didn't know where the car was at. I asked my mom when I got back, he said, well, just hold on. We'll wait and see if anything comes up, if the car is reported lost or in an accident or anything.
You do me a favor. Close your mouth. Mr. Bowie.
Yes, ma'am.
How long has Miss Big Mouth had the car in her possession?
It was since the 19th of October.
19th of October. 19th of October to November. November to December. 2 months that she's known where the car is.
Yes, ma'am.
And with Mr. Rapport, could have come and repossessed her because she hasn't made a payment in 2 months.
Yes, ma'am.
Right?
That's correct.
Okay. So you get your $1,300 back because you put in a lot of money.
Yes, ma'am.
You paid $500. Did they give you back the $500?
No, ma'am.
$1,800 on your counterclaim.
Can I see the receipt?
You can say nothing. You had no right to sell this car if what your daughter says is true, and I doubt it. But at this point, I'm not putting Mr. Bowie in a position of having to go and repossess the car. Do you understand?
Okay.
They have every right to be furious with you.
That's correct.
Every right to be furious with you and your daughter.
That's right.
We offered to pay the money back to them. Before it even got here, Your Honor.
The $500?
We
Yes.
offered to pay that and the cost of fixing the car.
Did they offer to pay you back the cost of fixing the car?
No, ma'am. They just offered to pay me the cost of purchase.
$500.
Yes,
Well, that's
ma'am.
what she said when she walked in here. When she walked in here and started to tell me the story, she said, we offered him $500.
Yes, ma'am.
I told Mr. Charles Bowie.
Your daughter said they offered him $500.
That was me. I offered him the $500 back, and I said if he can show me the receipts, then I would be more than willing to pay, making him payments. That's when I was threatened that if I don't have his money by the Monday, she's dead, her husband's dead, and the kids are dead.
And that is
that
true.
was the threat that was told
it.
to us.
He said we
We're
didn't
gonna be
have
in
the
body
money by
bags.
Monday, $1,800, that my mom would be raising my kids.
And he also told me that, I
So
said,
we
Mr.
did
Bowen,
offer.
let me make the payments to you. He said, you shouldn't be responsible for making your daughter payments.
That's what it was.
And I said, it doesn't matter who make the payments as long as you get your money. I don't have $1,800. I can give you the $500, but I have to give me
Work
the
out the
receipts,
payment.
and I work out the...
Let me ask you this question, and I want your daughter to keep her mouth shut. Does the car run now?
The car was
No.
running, yes,
Since your daughter is back
yes.
from New York, has she driven the car? Just look at me.
Yes.
Has she driven the car?
She's driven.
Just answer my question.
Yes, ma'am.
When she left the car, was the car able to be driven?
No.
Right. That's what she said. You could have
Correct.
sold the car and given him his money right away. And then he doesn't have to take payments. That's fair. That's reasonable. Because of your misrepresentation and your daughter's irresponsibility, what happened is he's out $1,800. And if you wanted to make him whole and do the right thing, and if you didn't have $1,800 right away, you sell the car and you give him the $1,800. You could probably get $1,800 for it. Is it worth $1,800, Mr. Bowie?
Ma'am, it's worth a little bit more than $1,800.
Fine. So I have no sympathy for you. Now you want to tell me, please, about the Halloween decorations? And tell me quickly.
Well, every
it's all
year-
decorated. You decorated a
Yes.
haunted house. And one of the things was somebody in a casket with shoes, something I don't want to know about. And you want to tell me what happened to the dead body with the casket and the shoes.
Okay, we was upset because we couldn't decorate because the threats, they were fighting in the streets, calling us out, threatening us. We couldn't leave a driveway. Friends come over.
Yeah,
and
okay, fine.
so
It
They
was
were
just a lot
angry.
of harassment
They were
from
angry.
them.
They were angry. You should have sold the car and given him his money. Next, let me hear about the vandalism,
and
please.
so I was sitting in the backyard and I saw Miss Veronica, her sister, in my yard on my lawn with the stick that she tried to hit me with. And she was swinging at the dummy that we made, my kids and us, all of us made.
Let me see it, please.
And then I have
Shh, I didn't speak to you. I don't want to speak to you. I spoke to you enough. Okay, so now we have dummies. And now I see that the dead dummies look even more dead. They're on the ground. All right. So you saw what?
Her
And the
swinging-
shoe was off?
Yeah, they threw.
And you put the shoes off?
She threw the shoes down the street. Her and her sister.
Why'd you do that for?
I didn't do that, Your Honor.
Yes, you did. You sure you did?
No, Your Honor.
Sure you
it was
did.
the boy next
Which-
door.
It was the boy next door? Did you
Yes,
tell
Your
that to the
Honor.
police?
No, I didn't, Your Honor.
Why not?
Because the police never came for the vandalism.
Really? They never
No.
spoke to you?
Here's-
Can I have the
They
police
spoke-
report?
This is
I-
right here.
They spoke
Can I see
on
the
me
police?
on my baby's birthday.
And she was arrested.
How old are you?
I'm 22.
She was arrested.
I was
also.
never arrested, Your Honor.
well, whatever happened when
She
she was
was
cited
arrested.
out. But then, you know, I have to get told I'm going to be put in body bags. I think that was just stressful enough every time I walked out
Did
the
you
door.
hear me say that I don't want to hear your voice anymore?
Be quiet, Javon.
Okay.
And how much damage did this cause to the dead dummy?
I'm countersuing for the same amount.
You're not going to get the same amount.
Okay, because we were stressed out. We couldn't do
Why
daily
didn't you just
functions.
relieve all your stress by selling the car and giving him his money?
Your Honor, I tried to do the right thing as I...
No, you didn't. The right thing was to force your daughter to sell the car and pay him the money that he spent on the car.
I tried-
Not in payments, not $50 a month, not $100 a month. You have the right to sell it, and give him his money because it was your mistake that caused this bad blood. Before this
It is.
happened, did you all get along?
Yes.
Well, that's ridiculous.
It is.
It's ridiculous.
It is.
And you know whose fault it is? You know whose fault it is?
my fault, 'cause I-
No, hers.
If my mom would have never sold them the car, I had no idea.
Didn't you? I don't want to hear your voice. It's your daughter's irresponsibility that caused the bad blood with the family. That doesn't mean that Miss Veronica, listen to me, do you think I believe you? I don't. They don't have damages. You've clearly been annoying them, and it's got to stop. Do you understand?
Yes.
It has to stop. You're 22 years old. Are you married?
No.
What'd you have a baby for? What?
Because
You
I
live with
wanted
your
one.
mother?
Yes.
You live with your father?
Yes.
Very good. You think your mother wanted to be a mother taking care of babies all over again? She's got grown children. What does she need more babies for? But you made a baby. Act responsibly. Responsible people don't vandalize other people's homes. Take your hands out of your pockets. Responsible mothers don't vandalize other people's homes. Do you get me?
Yes, Your Honor.
Good.
But I didn't do it.
Yes, you did. You or your sister. I'm not sure which one. But there's no question in my mind that you did.
Your Honor.
It's got to stop. Life is too short. Mr. Bowie,
Yes, ma'am.
how long have you been neighbors?
For about 3 years.
Life is too short. Do you own your own home?
Yes, ma'am.
And you?
I own my property he's renting.
Okay. Shh. I'm trying to make peace. Don't you want me to try to make peace?
Yes, ma'am.
You want to live in war with your neighbors? Don't live in
No,
war.
I
It's
don't.
very unpleasant. And it all started over this car.
Yes, it did.
Well, the car's going to be resolved. Okay, Mr. Bowie?
Yes, ma'am.
You have to rein in your family.
Okay.
You have to make sure Miss Attitude over here does the right thing and her sister does the right thing.
Yes, ma'am.
Sister or brother? You have a sister or a brother?
I have a sister.
How old are they?
She's 15, 19, and 3.
And 3.
Your Honor, it was the whole entire family. It was Mr. Boyd, Miss Grayson,
I'm
the whole
trying
entire
to make
family.
peace.
Okay, this is what I'm saying where my restraining order comes in at, because they came to my door to fight us, calling us out in the middle of the street.
And your point is?
This is harassment.
Of course it's
This is
harassment. You should have
mental
paid him
anguish
back the
to
money
me and
that
my
you, in
kids.
fact, stole from him.
But they don't give a right.
Listen to
This
me. You should have
doesn't-
paid him back the money that you, in effect, stole. Then you wouldn't have had the harassment.
I didn't.
threatened him to put me in a
Shavonna,
body bag.
Shut up, please.
Perfect. Oh,
I was just
should have
trying
done that a long time ago. You keep fighting with me. I'm going to say it once more. I'm trying to make peace. You evidently lived in peace for 3 years next door to these people. That peace was destroyed over this car deal.
Yes.
I am now fixing the car deal. Mr. Bowie is getting his $1,800 back. I'm trying to make peace. Do you understand?
I understand.
Do you understand?
I understand.
Your case is dismissed. Mr. Bowie, you're getting your $1,800. That's
Thank
all.
you, Your Honor.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Thompson is suing her ex-boyfriend, Scott Simmons, for repair bills, repossession fees, and 5 months' worth of payments on a Toyota Camry.
All rise. Quiet in the courtroom. Quiet in the courtroom. Your Honor, case number 409 on the calendar in the matter of Thompson versus Simmons.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Judge. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. Ma'am, have a seat.
You must have been absent on the day that I told you never, never to co-sign on a car for anybody.
Yes, Your Honor. I think
Not a
I
good
must
day
have
to
been.
be absent. In any event, you did, in fact, do that. You
Yes, I did.
co-signed on a car for Mr. Simmons while you were in a relationship. The relationship terminated, as most of these relationships do, and you repossessed the car. Mr. Simmons stopped, according to you, making payments on the car. You invested a lot in the car. You're stuck with those payments and those fees, and you want him to compensate you. Mr. Simmons says that you had a rather odd arrangement with regard to the car, and that was that as long as you were dating, you would make the payments on the car. That's what you said,
That's correct.
right? And as soon as you stopped dating, he made the payments on the car, and you had no right to repossess the car. As a matter of fact, he was perfectly willing to put the car in his name and to assume all of the financial responsibility, and you chose to have the car towed to a secret location, preventing him from having access to what was really his vehicle. Is that right?
That's correct, Your Honor.
That's a first, Mr. Simmons, but I'm going to let you go there in a minute. How long were you and Mr. Simmons involved in a relationship before this car was purchased?
7 months.
7 months exclusively, 7 months living together, 7 months
7 months just exclusively dating.
Well, he just looked at you as if to say, maybe exclusive for you, honey, but not for me necessarily. That was the look. I'm just letting you know that that was the look. So after 7 months, would you let me share the circumstances surrounding purchasing this car from your perspective?
During the time that we dated, he frequently borrowed my car to drive about an hour, hour and a half to pick up his daughter for visitations every other weekend because his vehicle was just not up for the drive. So when he approached me asking me to co-sign a loan for him to buy a new car, I looked at the fact that he had had a job for 7 years and kind of have a soft spot for dads that are devoted to their daughters, and I agreed to co-sign for the loan as long as I never had to spend a penny out of pocket for that car.
Is that what you said to him?
Oh, yes.
Absolutely not, Young.
And so tell me what you did.
So I co-signed the loan, and...
Did you go shopping with him?
No, he had it all picked out. The only time I ever went to the dealership with him was when we went to sign the papers.
When he purchased it?
Correct.
And the car was purchased when?
The car was purchased at the end of September in 2006. First payment he made in November of 06.
And how much was the payment that he made in November?
$543.41.
And you have proof of that?
Oh, yes.
Good. Go ahead.
Then he was laid off from his job just weeks later, so it was about Thanksgiving 2006.
He was laid off?
Yes.
Did he have a conversation with you about being laid off?
Oh, sure.
What did he say?
No, he was fired because he was late for work too often. He kind of has a liking to staying up all night drinking and playing video games.
Okay, so he was laid off from this job that he had for 7 years, according to you?
According to him. I didn't check his employment record.
Big mistake.
Yeah.
Okay, so then he's laid off, and what about December's payment?
He did not have the money for it, and I take great pride in my credit, so I said that I would make the payment at the due date and get the money to me as soon as he can.
And what did he say?
Absolutely. I'll get it to you as soon as I can.
What about January's payment?
Nope, same situation. He was still trying to find work. He was going to the temporary services, but it was so early in the morning, and he would be frustrated that they wouldn't have work for him.
Was he living with you?
Not at all, no.
What about February's payment?
By the beginning of February, he came to me with some cash. He had owed me still for a past phone bill. He had often told me he had money for me. And when it came time to bring the money to me, he would call and delay. And
in February, he brought you some cash. How
yes,
much?
$800 cash on February the 3rd.
And that was for the...
It was for money that he owed me. The cell phone. I was also paying the insurance on the car.
Listen, I'm not a bookkeeper. I want to know how much of that $800 was for the car.
$105.
May I have a moment, Your Honor?
Sure.
The plaintiff suggested that if I had any problems initially making any car payments, then to not worry about it, don't feel so stressed and obligated because she was aware of my other financial obligations.
Don't tell me what she was aware of.
These are facts, Your Honor.
You made the payment in November, sir. According to the plaintiff, is that the truth or a lie?
Payment in November?
Yes, she can say
No,
that she can establish that you made the payment in November.
That's not correct.
Can I
made
see?
2 payments.
Shh. Can I see the November payment, please?
Yes, ma'am. It's a list of all the payments made on the car. November is on the bottom of the list.
You sure you didn't make the payment in November, sir?
Not from my account.
Did you give her money?
I gave her money occasionally,
Okay.
yes, but not directly related to that November payment.
Okay.
As she stated already, there are some phone bills and some things that she said that she would put in her account or put into her name so that I could maintain communication with her. And I told her that I would help her out occasionally when I had the finances to do that.
You were supposed to make the payments on this car, sir. According to you, you were supposed to make the payments on this car. And according to you, what you just said to me was she told you, if you can't make the payments at some point, don't be so stressed, I'll cover them. That's what you started to tell me.
That's correct.
That's different from saying what you swore to in your answer, while we were dating, I'll make the payments. That's different. That's a whole different thing, Mr. Simmons. Do you get it? You
flip-flop back and forth from
listen, don't tell me flip-flop. Flip-flop doesn't make a contract. Flip-flop doesn't make a deal. If what she said to you, which may be true, listen, I don't want you to be stressed. If you're short, I'll cover for you because, you know, you've been paying me for the other things. Don't be stressed. That I believe. What I didn't believe when I read your answer that you swore to, sir, was the following.
Yeah, following.
She told me she would pay the monthly payments on a new Toyota Camry as long as we were together. That, Mr. Simmons, I didn't believe. You know why I don't believe it? Because it doesn't sit well with my common sense. And based upon what you just told me, I was accurate. Because she never said, as long as we're dating, I'll make the monthly payments. She said, I don't want you to stress. That's what you say. If you're short, I'll help you.
That's correct.
That's a different thing, Mr. Simmons.
I find the two to be very similar.
Well, maybe that's why you're standing there and I'm sitting here. Did you ever think of that?
No.
Maybe that's why I am continuously employed and you are not.
Okay, well, I'm
Mr.
employed
Simmons.
now.
Well, that's wonderful. How old are you?
What does that have to do with anything?
I want to know how old you are. You have a child,
I'm
you have a
38.
support order, and it's clear in December and January you weren't working. How could you not be working?
As she explained, my employment was terminated.
Well, so I just said to you, I'm continuously employed and you're not. And I don't have children that I have to support, thank God, anymore. If you said to me in your statement what you said to me just now, I would have believed you. I would have said, well, I could imagine a woman who's in love, you know, could just be that kind of sucker. You know, I want you to have a good car. If you're short on the money, I'll help you. But that's not what you said.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
How were you seeing him at that point?
I wasn't.
He says that you were still in a relationship.
We weren't.
Must have been through the astrologer.
That was probably it.
And later today,
I'm asking you, what proof do you have, sir, that she took the box?
She was the only one with the key that day, Your Honor. Nobody else ever knew where that lockbox was. She's the only one down there ever.
Thompson says ex-boyfriend Scott Simmons owes for a Toyota Camry that was in her name. Scott says that Lisa is a woman scorned.
How much did you spend on his car before you repossessed it?
Before I could find it, I ended up making a total of 7 payments. He wasn't able to make a lot of them on time, so I would go in and pay the payment, and that would give him a few extra days to get to me with the money. He also gambled quite a bit, so he would gamble and then lose the money, and then he'd need a few more days.
In what month did you repossess the car?
I repossessed it in October because he was so far behind in the payments. I kept asking him to just give me the car, and I'll sell it and get him off the loan, and then we just don't have to deal with this
And what was his
anymore.
response?
No.
Why wouldn't you give her the car?
Because that wasn't part of our arrangement. Just like she suggested that I was supposed to be responsible
But you weren't
for
making
the car
payments on the. You weren't making payments on the
Because
car.
we were in a relationship.
No, not
What she
anymore.
called- Yes, we were. She may have hidden it well from whoever else, or maybe she's delirious of the fact that we were still seeing one another at that moment.
You weren't paying for the car.
She was supposed to pay for the car.
No, sir, you just lied to me. That's not what you told me 5 minutes ago. 5 minutes ago, you said
I
5
suggested
minutes.
that I would help her whenever I
No,
could.
that's not what you said. Not you would help her. You told me she would help you if you were short. That's what you told me. Here you said that she was supposed to make all the payments. Clearly, that's a lie. 5 minutes ago, Mr. Simmons, you said, she said not to stress if you couldn't make the payments, then she would help you out. Now your story is she was supposed to make the payments and you would help her out. That's 3 different stories, Mr. Simmons, in 10 minutes. I don't know what you saw in him, madam. I've been with him for a relatively short period of time. Evidently, you need a longer period of time in order to have that attraction sort of kick in.
I think so.
You had a key made to the car. You went
I did.
to his place of employment,
Well,
according
actually,
to
he
you.
wasn't working for all those months, so I spent hours and hours trying to find the car. He was evicted from his apartment, so I couldn't look there for him anymore.
How were you seeing him at that point?
I wasn't.
He says that you were still in a relationship.
We weren't.
Must have been through the astrologer.
That was probably it.
Go ahead.
So I searched for him and searched for him. I had everyone I know looking out for this car. I had the license plate. I had text
You finally
messages.
found it.
I finally
I have
found
other
it.
things to do.
He, sorry. He ended up telling me he had just started back at his job. I showed up at his job while he was at work, sat in the car, called the tow truck, waited for them to come and get it.
So they towed the car to the company.
No, that had to do with the police. Wouldn't take any stand on it. They sent the tow truck home because it said it's a civil matter, but I wouldn't get out of the car. I said, well, it's not going to happen because I'm not going to get out of the car.
Great. So what happened?
He eventually gave in and took his stuff out of the car, but refused to give me the keys still. So I had to have it towed to a dealership and have a new
That's
key
not
made.
correct.
Well, so tell me what happened, sir.
No, she said that she was going to give me opportunity to try to get the car refinanced.
I'd been telling you for
together,
months.
Together, we drove over to the dealership. Meanwhile, while I'm in the dealership trying to get this refinanced, work it all out, she's outside. I come back outside to talk to her, and the car is gone. In a scandalous way, she had the car towed from the dealership.
Perfect.
Oh, you like that now?
Oh, I certainly do, sir.
not
I certainly
true.
do. Did you bring any canceled checks to show me that in the 2 months prior to her taking possession of the car, you made the car payments?
Yes, ma'am.
Show me.
It's the last 3 pages. There were 2 car payments that I had made in the month of, I think it was March. Following that...
Just a second. Wait. In what month was the car repossessed?
I took it back the beginning of October.
In October?
Yes.
So we're talking about August and September.
There's a statement in there for August.
Well, you have something here that says girlfriend's account.
That's correct.
So in August, your girlfriend made a payment.
Through her account, correct.
Okay, and for $548.41. Okay?
That's correct.
Where is September?
Did not make payment September.
Why not?
Payment was already paid 2 months in advance. There was 2 payments made consecutively from February and March on the other statements that you have there.
We're not talking March. I'm asked you September. Show me September's payment, sir.
I just have August there.
Well, you didn't make September. Then in October, she said, I'm taking it back. Here, give this back to him. Wouldn't know the truth if it came up and slapped him in the face. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $4,659. Thank you, that's all.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Spite, because I'm seeing somebody else.
I didn't care.
And when I didn't want to be with her anymore, she chose to take the car back.
All I wanted was the money to pay for the what's on my credit.
She was feeling neglected, yes.
Oh, Judge Judy's #1 rule, never co-sign a loan.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Gentry versus Stevenson, step forward, please.
Dan Gentry is suing his former friend, 23-year-old Danielle Stevenson, for stealing a lockbox full of cash from his home. Danielle denies the charge.
Mr. Gentry, you and Miss Stevenson had sort of a casual relationship. The relationship isn't that important to this case. What is important is that you believe that while she was performing some work at your house, and that work was cleaning your house, which she did on occasion for money.
Correct.
She stole a lockbox that you kept in the basement.
Correct.
And its contents. And Miss Stevenson says she did not.
Correct.
She never saw the lockbox?
No, I didn't.
And so you, Mr. Gentry, are going to have to tell me what proof do you have that Miss Stevenson took this box? Go ahead.
She had cleaned for me the end of June of '06. It was a Friday, the 25th. That night, I gave her a key to the house to come and clean the bathroom floor and do a few dishes the next day, okay? July 29th, when I came home from work at 7 p.m. that night, I came in, front door, of course. By my front door of the closet, I noticed an umbrella missing. I went in the bedroom. My top dresser drawer was pulled out, $25, $30 cash. Went in the kitchen. There was a fingernail file, metal fingernail file that was originally in the bathroom, laying on the kitchen counter. That made me think, go downstairs and look at the lockbox. I went down there, completely gone. Nothing ransacked. Doors completely closed.
That's on July 29th.
Correct.
Okay.
June 25th, she was down there cleaning by herself with a neighbor friend of mine. Her father and I had left to go to the store. She was down there 45 minutes, maybe an hour by herself, straightening up some bags. Nobody else knew where that lockbox was at or even could have found it.
So?
So when she was down there, more than likely she looked through there
It's possible.
being in a...
I'm asking you, what proof do you have, sir, that she took the box?
I don't have 100% proof, but
I'm not asking you for 100% proof. You don't need 100% proof in civil court, but you need proof.
Okay, well, she had a key to the house that day, the only person with a key for her to come that Saturday, the next day, to do the cleaning.
So, keep going.
Like I said, that's when I came home that night. It was missing. Made a police report. I do have that. Photos where the lockbox was. From there, it went to a detective. Miss Mancini refused to take a polygraph test. From there, it went later on.
What's your name was Stevenson?
I got married. He didn't know that I had gotten married until probably a month or two ago.
Okay, go ahead.
It went to a prosecutor after that, and he said he couldn't do a whole lot with it. But the only thing is, when I called her that night of the 29th of July of '06, outside she said, check the side door. I might have left it unlocked. I threw some water out there or something. Of course, I went over and checked the door, screen door, big door, both unlocked. But she remembered to lock the front door when she left.
So?
My feeling, 1 in a million, someone could come in there and knew where that lockbox was.
They also took $25 or $30 out of your drawer,
Right.
according to you, and an umbrella,
Correct.
and your lockbox. Mm-hmm. Is that all the proof that you have against her?
She was the only one with the key that day, Your Honor.
Mr. Gentry, I don't even have to ask her any questions. The fact that she had a key to your house doesn't mean that she took your property. Your door was also open. Is that correct?
The side door, which no one...
Side door was also open. Is that correct?
Correct. Left unlocked.
Mr. Gentry, I don't know whether she took your property or not, but the fact that she had access to your house, the fact that your property was missing, doesn't mean she took it. Doesn't mean she took it.
Okay. I do have a recording from my voicemail she had left after sometime August to February of '07.
Yeah.
That she'd left saying that she would pay me back even though she didn't do it.
Oh, she said she'll pay you back even though she didn't do it.
Mm-hmm. Nobody else ever knew where that lockbox was. She's the only one down there ever.
So what you're telling me is you have a voicemail from her that says, I didn't do it.
I didn't do it, but I would pay you because the detective had told her that she might be facing charges against her.
Is that right?
Yes. The reason I told him that I would pay it even though I didn't do it is because me and him were friends for like 4 or 5 years. This is somebody who I talk to every day, who was like my best friend. So him being mad at me, it made me upset. So I was willing to make payments to him on whatever he thought was stolen just so we could continue our friendship.
I wouldn't want to be friendly with somebody that thought I was a thief.
I kind of figured that if I said something like that, he might realize that I didn't do it. Because if I was going to steal from him, I would have done it during the beginning of our friendship, not towards the end after, my son spent time with him and everything else. He came to my parents' house, everything.
Whatever. You don't have enough evidence for me to even stretch it, sir, and reach a conclusion that you can establish, even in a civil proceeding, that she stole your property. Do you understand?
Yes.
Good. Your case is dismissed.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
6-year-old Vincent Fergano is suing his ex-fiancée, 24-year-old Jennifer Peterson, for money owed and for the return of a laptop he bought on eBay.
All rise. Yeah, it's case number 399 on the calendar, the matter of Fergano versus Peterson.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Judge. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated, ma'am. Please have a seat.
Mr. Fergano, you and Miss Peterson were in a relationship and decided to do a little commingling of your assets.
Yes.
Very dumb.
Yes, Your Honor.
Is this the first time you've ever done that with a girlfriend?
Yes, we were engaged to be married.
Did you get the ring back?
No, she kept it.
Where's the ring?
She took it.
Where's the
I
ring?
have it with me, Your Honor.
Good. Can I have it, please? Very lovely. You don't want this engagement ring, do you? Perfect.
No, I don't.
And Mr. Fergano, you do want it back, I assume?
Yes.
Yeah, she doesn't want it. And you want it back. And you should have it back. Because we're going to resolve everything so the two of you can go your own separate ways.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Okay? Perfect. See how fair I am? See how fair I
I
am?
appreciate it very much.
That's it. Don't get used to it. Yeah. Mr. Fergano,
Thank you, sir.
I'm a very orderly person. We're going to deal with one thing at a time.
Okay.
The first thing that you want is some money, because you claim that Miss Peterson sold some items of yours, I don't know, baseball cards, videos, whatever they were.
Video game collection.
On eBay.
Yes.
A system that I wholly do not understand. Nor do I want to understand it at my stage in life. Miss Peterson acknowledges that she sold these things for you on eBay because she knew how to do it, and she acknowledges she has some money that she's holding that belongs to you, right?
Right.
How much money are you holding from the sale of the items on eBay?
It's like $630.
Okay, so far you have $630 on your team and the engagement ring. Then you say that there is a computer,
Yes, an Alienware laptop.
which Miss Peterson says she does not have, correct?
Correct.
And you've never had it in your possession.
No, I have not.
So you purchased a computer online.
Yes.
And tell me what happened, sir, why you think she's responsible for this computer.
I sold my video game collection for purchasing the laptop. Also for extra money for her birthday on November 2nd. I purchased a laptop from the seller on eBay. I transferred $645 from my account into hers to pay for the item. And I have not received the item because of her. She waited out on the 23rd, I do believe, of October for the laptop. I went there with my father. I had my evidence, which I had already showed to the postmaster. He said there's nothing he can do. It has to go to the address. So I went to the mail lady. They looked at my evidence. They said just bring it right back to the post office. Do not even let her know that it's in the mail truck. She yelled at my father, don't touch my mail. She saw the laptop in the truck, tried to get it. Her girlfriend was there as well with the kids. I called the cops. I have a police report on that as well. The laptop went back. She tried to claim it. She does not have valid ID for Jennifer Fergano.
But it went back.
It went back to the seller, yes, and I did contact him, and he told me over the phone that I was a sick SOB.
Then you have to sue him, because he's got the laptop back. And
well,
your money.
He told me that he was sending it back to her.
But she doesn't have it, and I believe her. And you've never had it in your possession.
I have not.
Nor has anyone in your family.
No.
Okay, so he hasn't sent it back, and the seller has $645 of your money.
Yes.
Well, that's intolerable. So you have to sue him?
Can't contact him. I got
What do
him
you mean?
once. I sent him multiple emails. He never responded once. And I have proof of them corresponding. He made his sale private, and she made it private as well. So they're corresponding together, working together, and I know that well, I don't know for a fact that she has a laptop, but I do have tracking confirms up until the point where he received it.
But then you saw that she didn't get it.
Well, no, if he remailed it, it wouldn't be tracking confirmed no more. It would be under a
I
different label.
guarantee he didn't remail it. You know how to reach him?
Yes.
Okay. Because you have a counterclaim, so this is what we're going to do. All this is very unfortunate. Probably the seller who sold the computer. And when was that? In what month?
The sale of the laptop was on... Hold on. Wow, I had everything so organized. Now I'm on
October?
Oh, so it's recent.
Yes, yes.
Okay, so I'm going to entertain your counterclaim. Everything that you may get a judgment for in your counterclaim is going to be stayed until you contact the owner of the computer and have the owner of the computer send the computer to you. What?
He said he'll ship it as long as somebody pays for the shipping again.
Okay.
So
I had already agreed
he
to
wants
do
to
that.
contact him.
So he's going to pay for the shipping again.
Okay.
But you're going to get the computer. You're going to get nothing on your counterclaim until he has the computer in his possession. Do
Okay.
you understand?
Yes.
Is that reasonable?
Yes.
Perfect. Is that satisfactory, sir?
Yes,
Good. Now, Ms. Peterson, we're going to your counterclaim. So now you have money and you have your computer. Other than doing what I've told her to do, she can't get the computer from this guy if he's not going to send it. But she's going to try very hard because she's going to tell me what she wants from you, some of which I think she's entitled to, and she's not going to get it until you have your computer. So she's going to work real hard to see to it that you get your computer. Do you understand?
yes, Your Honor.
Now, your counterclaim, Ms. Peterson, says that the two of you did a ridiculous thing. You purchased this car. You used a car of yours as a trade-in.
Yes.
Down payment for a car that the two of you were using together.
Yes.
Your Honor, I have a Sebring convertible, which is mine. I have purchased her 3 cars, a Jeep Wrangler.
We're not talking about any
Pontiac
3
Grand
cars.
Am.
We're talking about the car that was used.
Right, I have purchased that. I have evidence that I purchased it.
No question. You purchased it. You're telling me that you used a car that was yours
Yes.
for a down payment on that car.
Yes.
Which car did you use as a down payment?
1989 Pontiac Grand Am.
Was that car traded in, sir?
Yes, we both signed off on it.
We?
Was that car in both your names?
No, only in her name.
So it was her car. And that car was used as a down payment on the car that you currently have. Is that right?
Yes.
And that was done in what month and year?
July of 07.
And the two of you separated in when?
October.
And how much did you receive as a credit for her car?
$500.
Is that right?
Yes.
And then when you separated, you took the car.
She took it at first to her parents' house and then took it to work. And I made a police report and then went and retrieved the car.
What year car is your Sebring?
The Monte Carlo is the one that I had bought for her. It's a 2001 Monte Carlo.
When you say you bought the 2001 Monte Carlo for her, was it a gift?
No.
What was it?
Well, she drove my Sebring into a flooded area, and her car was acting up, and I didn't want to put any more repairs into it. So I said, let's get a new car. And I will put you on there as well so that you can pay the insurance, and it would be registered to you. She never once made an insurance payment. Her insurance lapsed. I had to put it in my name, the insurance, and I paid everything.
Judge Judy continues, and Vincent Fergano says ex-fiancée Jennifer Peterson owes for the return of money and a laptop computer. Jennifer is countersuing for a car Vincent repossessed and for the value of the property inside.
Okay. In any event, Ms. Peterson, you want minimally $500 back.
Yes.
That was the trade-in value of your car.
Yes.
That sounds reasonable to me, Mr. Fergano.
Yeah, but I paid for everything.
I understand that.
You know.
You don't get...
They get away with it, and
listen.
it bothers me.
Hey, listen, Mr. Fergano, sometimes that stuff happens.
I understand that.
Usually happens where the girl is standing on that side and the guy is standing on this side. Every once in a while it happens the other way around. But she gets back the $500 as soon as you get the what?
The laptop.
The laptop, correct. Now, there's another part of your lawsuit, and that is when he came and took the car back from you.
Yes.
You had personal property in the car.
Yes.
I want you to tell me what personal property you had in the car.
It was some belongings of my children. It's a Barbie Magnadoodle. It's one of those little drawing boards for kids to play with.
Who cares? Go ahead. What else?
I have receipts for that. I have receipts for car seats that belong to my children.
Okay. You have 2 children?
Yes, I have 2.
Were there car seats in the car?
Yes, I returned everything on Sunday. Sunday evening,
Sunday?
after they called the cops on me and her mother told the police outrageous accusations about
Just
me.
a second. Who did you return the car seats to?
I brought them to South Locust Avenue, and I dropped them off by all of my belongings that were covered in used kitty litter and...
Shh. Did you bring them into the house?
I couldn't. I wasn't allowed on the property.
So what did you do? You just threw them on the property?
I placed them by the tree, and I told Alba that they were there, the previous landlord.
All you had to do was bring them to the police station. Mr.
I was
Fragano.
escorted off the property
Mr.
by the
Fragano,
police.
don't play with me, sir. You don't throw it by a tree along with your property that was covered in kitty litter and then say, I returned it. You didn't return it.
I did.
No, you didn't.
I dropped it there. I
Sorry.
left it there for her.
Sorry. Don't buy it.
And it was only 2 car seats, 1 medical bill from Stony Brook, and a couple of toys that they used my Target card to purchase as well.
I don't care whether they used your Target card to purchase it at all. The most important thing were the car seats, and you have to replace those because you didn't return them. If you took them to the police precinct and said, listen, I'm dropping them off at the police precinct, you can go and pick them up there, that's one thing. What you did was vicious. You don't get credit for that. So you're going to pay $100 for each of the car seats.
They were only $30 each.
Really? How do you know that?
Because I purchased the one, and the other one was the exact same one as the one I purchased. And it was
You
$30
have
from
bills
Target.
for the car seats?
Not with me, Your Honor. I can't find them. They were
in my Target.
within a year and a
on my
half.
Target card.
I've had the car seats.
How old are your children?
3 and 4.
And I've been dad for the past 2 years.
Okay.
The last day of them screaming, I want my daddy.
You get $50 each for the car seats. Go out and buy new car seats for your children if they still need them. So
Her
far,
girlfriend already
so
purchased
far, I'm
me ones.
speaking.
I'm sorry, Your Honor.
Because that'll cover the toys that were in there as well. So that means that he owes you $600, which I'm holding until he gets his laptop.
Yep.
Do you understand?
Yes.
Now you have your ring back. You have your money back. You're going to get your PC back. You have your down payment back, and you have the value of the property that was in the car when he took it back. Correct?
Yes.
Okay, now you don't like each other anymore? You don't have children together? There is absolutely no reason for you to be involved with each other? Right?
That is correct, Your Honor.
Go by,
I
have a happy
appreciate it.
life, go separately, and stay separate.
You don't want to hear none of the drama?
No, I don't want to hear any drama. I don't like drama. I make my own drama.
I understand, Your Honor.
Parties are excused, may step out.
I took care of her kids for 2 years.
I have 2 small children. Yes, he's not the father of them, and he took on that role.
He's bad news.
Her mom making allegations
He assaulted me back in December.
that I was sexually abusing the kids, physically abusing the kids, abusing her physically.
He assaulted my granddaughter.
Spanking, you know, is child abuse, and he spanked my youngest. She's 3.
It's outrageous.
She had a handprint on her butt for 3 weeks.
I don't like him.
Her ex was living at her parents' house for the past year.
He has no relationship with Jenny. He has a girlfriend.
She went there for a whole week. I didn't know he was there.
They have not been together since the youngest child.
2 different lives.
Stay away from creeps like that.
Don't let a man control you.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Mentier versus Mentier, step forward, please.
22-year-old Catherine Mentier is suing her mother-in-law, Melissa Mentier, for unpaid loans to buy a dress and to pay for a plane ticket to New York.
Miss Mentier, this is your mother-in-law.
Yes, that is correct.
And according to your complaint, you made a series of loans to her?
Yes,
She hasn't paid you back.
that is correct.
Your mother-in-law, she says, well, you're her daughter-in-law, so you're supposed to help her out. And then she said that you had her son arrested for domestic violence, so she's not paying you back any money.
Oh, okay.
She's wrong.
Right.
When did you have her son arrested?
I didn't have her son arrested.
Was he arrested?
He was arrested. I did not have him arrested.
Was there a domestic violence incident?
No. No domestic violence actually occurred, though that was the allegation.
Well, tell me why you think she would blame you for having him arrested.
Because anytime anything happens with her son, it's my fault.
Where's her
Her
son?
son is right here. This
That
is
would
my
be you?
husband. Yes. He's a perfect angel in her eyes, so he couldn't do anything wrong.
He doesn't look like an angel.
He's my angel.
Maybe your angel, but he doesn't look like an angel. How many times have you been arrested?
That would be
Stand up when you talk to me.
that would be my first time being arrested.
For what?
I was arrested for the domestic violence, but
Domestic violence on whom?
my wife, I guess.
Well, what happened, sir?
We got into an argument, and I don't know, some issues just came up, and I got a claim filed against me, and I ended up getting pulled over at McDonald's or something like that, and they pulled up a warrant that I actually had outstanding.
A
and took
warrant
me-
for what?
The domestic violence charge that I was given from Pataskala.
And you were quickly let go.
Yeah, I stayed one night in county and was released.
Are you living together now?
Yes.
Who do you work for?
I worked for her father as a chimney sweep. My previous job before that was at Circle K, but I actually quit that so I could stay home and take care of the children.
Whose children?
Her children, but yeah.
How many children do you have?
2.
How old are they?
1.5 and 6.
6-year-old is your child?
No, neither of them are mine.
I didn't ask you anything. Let's start with this premise, Mrs. Mintier. Parents don't borrow from children. Children take, parents give. Who do you work for?
I don't. I'm on disability.
What's the nature of your disability?
Mental.
How long have you been receiving disability?
About 10 years.
How many children do you have?
2.
How old are they?
18 and 5.
Well, your mental disability didn't impair you from having another child. Do you take medication for your disability?
Yes, I do.
Were you taking medication when your 5-year-old was born?
Yes, I was.
Is your 5-year-old normal?
Yes, he is.
Where is his father?
At work right now, I would assume. He's in the picture.
Does he live with you?
No.
Does he pay support?
Yes, he does.
How much money did you take from your daughter-in-law?
Well, I don't really feel that I owe her anything.
I didn't ask you what you feel. I'm not interested in what you feel. People who work for disability care about what you feel, Miss Mintier. I do not. I asked you how much money you took from your daughter-in-law.
I didn't take anything. She gave it to me.
One gives and one takes. Do you understand?
She assisted me with my rent.
I didn't ask you that.
$500 for my rent.
Good. That's one of the things that you took from her. $500 for your rent. What else did you take from her?
She purchased me a dress for the wedding.
How much was that?
It was actually a number of things that we bought at the bridal store that we did settle on the amount of $200 that she would pay me back.
When did you settle on the amount at the bridal store?
When we'd made the purchase.
Is that what she spent on her dress?
It was actually over that. As I'm sure she'll tell you, my dog ate a pair of her shoes one time. So the bill was actually more than $200, but to compensate for that, we settled on the amount of $200.
What else did you give her?
The airfare. She wanted to travel to see a friend, so
What kind of friend?
One of her friends, I guess, from New York.
Male or female?
Oh, a male.
Why did you go to New York to visit a friend?
To get away.
Where was your 5-year-old?
He was at home.
With whom?
With my son. Was watching him.
Son works.
At the time, he was not. That's one of the times he was living with me, back and forth between her house and mine.
How much was the airfare?
$263, I think.
So what you're telling me is your daughter-in-law, from whom your son was estranged, they weren't even living together, gave you money so that you could go and visit a boyfriend in New York? Is that what you're telling me? Just a second. I want to understand this. You said your son was estranged from his wife because he was living with you, so he was there to take care of your 5-year-old. And your daughter-in-law, from whom your son was estranged, I assume for good reason, according to you, gave you as a gift money so that you could go and have a good time in New York.
It was their fault I was stressed.
No, madam. It's your fault that you're stressed.
She took my son from me. I don't think I owe her anything.
Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe she does have a mental disability. I'm not sure. Let me explain something to you, sir. How old are you?
18.
And how old are you?
22.
Your mother has a personality disorder. I don't know about a mental disability that prevents her from working. She can certainly travel to see a boyfriend. She can certainly make a baby and take care of a baby. So as far as mental disability is concerned, I think the only people who have a disability are the people who decided that she deserves disability. That's not what I'm here to make a decision about. You have to make a judgment. You got married?
Yes.
You plan on staying married?
Yes.
Good. First of all, this is a court. It's not a basketball court. So when you come to court, you look like an adult. You don't dress like a baby. Do you understand?
Yes.
You're dressing like a baby to come to court.
I apologize.
Yeah. Do you have anything else to wear in your wardrobe?
Yes, I do. I just...
Well, then you should have worn it. You owe your daughter-in-law $963. Pay it!
At least I excuse you, Miss Stephen.
John Stockwell is suing his ex-girlfriend, 19-year-old Desiree Fithian, for a loan to put a down payment on a car. Desiree says the money was one of Ron's many gifts.
All rise. Now, this is case number 383 on the calendar in the matter of Stockwell versus Fithian. Parties have been sworn in, Your Honor. You may be seated.
Mr. Stockwell, it is your claim that the defendant, who was your girlfriend, owes you money that you loaned her for the down payment on a car.
Correct.
And this is the scenario that you allege. Don't fidget. Don't worry. I haven't even started on you yet. The two of you went looking for a car. She needed a car. She had a car that was hers, as far as you knew, that she was going to trade in and use as a down payment. She found a car that she liked. Hands out of your pocket.
Correct.
And the dealer was going to give her $2,000 as a trade-in for her car. You said to her, that's a ripoff. Your car's worth $4,000, right?
Correct.
So it is your claim that you said to her, listen, I'll give you the $4,000. Don't trade in your car. You go sell your car privately, you'll get a lot more for it, and when you sell your car, you'll give me back the money. That's your story.
Correct.
And you're sticking to it.
Correct.
Miss Fithian bought the car. She accepted your $4,000. And then she had one excuse after another for not selling the car that she had been driving. You subsequently found out, sir, that the car wasn't sold because it wasn't
hers.
Hers. That it belonged to her
Parents.
parents. And she couldn't sell it
Correct.
because it didn't belong to
her.
In addition, you say that as some demonstration of this debt, she gave you a check for $200 at some point, and the check bounced.
Actually, the $200 was cash that was given to me.
Cash?
She gave me a check for the balance, and that check actually bounced.
Do you have that check?
No, but I do have the statement of the account that it was deposited into and then it being withdrawn afterwards. I don't have a copy of the voided check.
Why?
We were still together at the time, so I assumed it wasn't an issue at that time.
You were still together?
What? No, that was kind of the final straw, but...
But you were together?
Correct, yes.
And when she gave you the bounce check, you were together?
Correct.
Well, what did you say to her when she gave you the bounce check?
What the...
And what'd she say to you?
She came up with multiple excuses. She had said that the money was given to her by grandmother, and her grandmother got sick, so she needed the money back. And long story short, that's pretty much it.
Okay. So now I got his story. Let's have yours.
Okay. I was looking to purchase a new vehicle. I'd given my parents' car back to them. It was going to be my brother's. My brother had just got his permit, and they had no other vehicle, so they asked for my Honda back. So I gave them back the Honda, and I was looking for a new car. Well, I was a first-time buyer, and I couldn't get anybody to co-sign. My parents wouldn't co-sign. They thought it was too big of a responsibility. Nobody would.
What kind of work were you doing?
I wasn't working at the time. I just got laid off.
Well, that was a good reason for nobody co-signing for a car for you.
Yes, agreeably.
Who were you living with?
I was living with Ron, and I was told that...
Just a minute, so you were living with Ron?
Mm-hmm.
And your parents took the car back?
Correct.
Did you know that, Ron?
She's lying. The car was hers.
Of course she's lying.
The car was hers. She didn't give the car back to her parents until after the new vehicle was purchased.
Of course. Nobody gives up a car.
Well, I had to give up the car. The car was not in my name.
I understand that, but you didn't give it back to them until after you got your little tuchus in the new car. That's what I'm saying to you, madam. You get it? You know, little tuchus? That's your little behind. Till you put your behind in the new car, you didn't give your brother back the old car.
No, I had to give the brother back my old car. That would be Grand Theft Auto if I would have kept the car.
Miss Fithian, listen carefully to what I just said to you. I said you didn't give one car back until you got your behind in the new car.
That's incorrect.
Yeah. On what date did you buy the new car?
It was November 26th, 2000.
And on what date did you give the car back to your parents for your brother?
It was sometime in August.
Just a second. November 26th, 2006, you bought the new car?
I believe it was, so.
That's right about right. I have the exact
And you
date.
gave back the car to your parents in August of 06, 3 months before?
Correct, yes.
3 months?
Correct.
Is that right, Mr. Stockwell?
No, the car was actually purchased on November 19th, and I would have to say she gave the car back to her parents somewhere around late January, early February.
Of 07?
Correct.
2 months later?
I would say probably a month to 2 months after she had had the new car. In the beginning, we had the new car, and the old car had sat in the street for a while, just sitting there because I had intentions of selling the vehicle, obviously.
What's her father's name? What's your father's name?
Paul, and when I was with him for over a year, he should know that.
Paul what?
Paul Ignacio.
And the car is in his name?
Correct.
Give me his telephone number.
2243.
And your brother's name?
My brother's name is Sean.
His number?
It's 8605.
And what kind of car was this, by the way?
The one that was purchased?
A 1998 Honda Civic.
Great. Why don't you have a seat? Is this Sean? Sean, this is Judge Judy Scheindlin. How are you this afternoon? Good. I need your help with regard to some dates. Your sister is here, and I'm trying a case involving the 1998 Honda Civic. Do you know what I'm talking about? Okay. Can you tell me when you took possession of that car? All right. We're back together again, Sean. When did you take possession of the car? Okay. And where had the car been before August of '07? Who was driving it? For how long before you got the car? So you haven't driven the car. Thank you. Goodbye, Sean. Goodbye. Well, Miss Fithian, there is no question that your parents did not need this car back immediately for your brother. He doesn't even drive this car much, he said, because it's a stick shift. Maybe he took possession of the car in August of '07, maybe, but he doesn't drive it much. Your parents sometimes use it when they need gas money. I don't know what he was talking about. But that story that you just gave me, that they needed it back for your brother, it was a whole lot of who shot John.
Excuse me, Your Honor, but it was not a story, second of all.
It was a big story, unless you're telling me that your brother's a liar.
Excuse me, but my brother is only 16 years old. He is not even credible for this.
No, you're not credible. Your brother, who didn't know how to lie, was a little bit credible, even though he was trying to cover his tracks. He even disconnected me once on his cell phone. But I have children and grandchildren. I know all about the disconnecting. I can't hear you routine. So, the story that you just gave me was a lot of baloney. Now, who was supporting her when you were together?
That would be me, Your Honor.
What do you do for a living, Mr. Stockwell?
Self-employed. I do metal distribution.
Do you make a living?
An okay one, yes.
And what about her?
What do you mean, what about
Does she work?
At the time, actually, when we purchased the vehicle, she worked.
What was she working at?
I don't know, selling motorcycle accessories. She had led me to believe that she was doing really well and she would be being promoted and everything was great, so she needed this.
Did she give you any money towards the expenses of running your home?
In the very beginning, there had been times that she had given me a couple hundred here and there, but I'm not really worried about that. I'm obviously
No, I'm just
worried.
asking you, I'm just trying to explain to you, sir, how very, very fortunate you are. Lesson maybe cost you a couple of bucks, but look what a good lesson you learned early on, right? And look how you didn't get hooked. You didn't have a kid with her or anything, did you?
No, I didn't.
Perfect. So, who's got the car now?
Toyota.
Toyota?
Correct.
How did Toyota get the car?
It was repossessed.
Why?
Because I wasn't working at the time. He had me staying home taking care of his 2 kids from 2 different mothers and cleaning his house, cooking him dinner. So I wasn't working, and I couldn't make the $575 payments a month.
You have custody of your children?
Every other weekend.
You have every other weekend with your
Correct.
children?
Yeah.
So
No, there'd be times where I would have to go pick them up for things. And when I would watch them and pick them up, he'd be at the bar drinking shows to his felony DUI with bodily injury for $40,000 that he has.
Why didn't you have a job?
He told me not to work. He had me not
No way
working.
did he tell you not to work.
He makes a lot of money at what he does. Shows for all my Coach bags he bought me, all of my snowboarding equipment, my snowboard that he bought me, all my snowboarding trips. This isn't just the only thing. He bought me tons of things, tons of things. He had me not working to take care of his eyeglasses appointment, all of his appointments and everything. I was like his personal secretary. This wasn't like a normal, oh, I'm staying home and get to go to get my nails done every single, no. And I would have to go to the mall and buy new clothes because I wasn't presentable enough for him in front of his family. I'd have to take pictures of me in the mirror and send it to him to make sure that that was appropriate.
She's lying.
No, I am not. This was not your normal relationship.
No, she's a dingbat. But she was your dingbat. You picked the dingbat. And you indulged the dingbat. Mr. Stockwell, you indulged the dingbat. When did you purchase this car?
November 19th.
November 19th, 2006?
Correct.
And how long did you live together after you had the car?
Approximately 3 months. I
How
would think
long?
maybe a little bit longer.
Let's see. About 5 months.
5 months.
Could have been 5 months?
Could have been, yeah.
You didn't get your $4,000 back month 1?
No,
month
I didn't.
2?
I didn't really start to get concerned
Month
about
2?
it until month 3.
Month 3? Yeah.
Month 3 is when I started to get concerned, and
And what happened in month 3? You still slept together?
oh yeah.
You weren't that concerned, right? Weren't that stressed that
I was
it
under the
interfered with your
I was under the
performance?
impression that I was still going to be getting the vehicle. Her parents had the vehicle, but I was still being
Get down on the
told.
floor, sir. Kiss the ground that's there. Say, listen, I already made 2 mistakes, right? You have 2 children from 2 different women, and how old are you, 26, 27?
27.
27? That would count in the category of mistakes. This might have been a 3rd one. Not clever, but you don't get your money back. Goodbye, Mr. Stockwell. That's all.
What is our excuse? You may step out.
Obviously, once I found out she was a liar and everything that she had been saying was bull,
I left and I got my own place,
then I decided to move on.
and I'm doing just fine now.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Bile versus Darling. Step forward.
24-year-old Jordan Bile is suing 19-year-old Jacob Darling for crashing his motorcycle during a test drive. Jacob claims the accident was due to the motorcycle's faulty brakes.
Mr. Bile, would you tell me something about yourself, sir? Your age, what you do for a living, schooling?
Yes, ma'am. My name is Jordan Bile. I'm a laboratory technician for Sherwin-Williams. I'm 24 years old. I attended Pensacola Christian College for 2.5 years. I've been working at Sherwin-Williams for 3 years as a laboratory tech.
So you sound like an intelligent young man.
Yes, ma'am. I like to think so.
It's a relatively simple case. You were selling a motorcycle. Had a for sale sign on it.
Yes, ma'am. That is correct.
The defendant and his girlfriend
Yes.
came over and said, gee, you may be interested in buying it. I'd like to take it on a test drive. So far, right?
No, he actually offered the test drive.
Oh, he did?
Yes.
And tell me something about yourself, Mr. Darling.
My name's Jacob Darling. I'm 19 years old. I work full-time at Tom's Crane Service doing landscaping and maintenance. I also go to Akron University full-time, majoring in engineering right now.
So you're a smart guy.
Mm-hmm. I'd like to.
So he offered you a test drive.
Mm-hmm.
Offered you.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And you said fine.
Mm-hmm.
And he took the bike out for a test drive, and he crashed it.
Yes, sure.
And you want him to pay to repair it. Mr. Darling has a counterclaim because Mr. Darling says that after he crashed the motorcycle and came back with it, you said to him, oh, it was the brakes. I've had trouble with those too. Did you ever say that to him?
No, ma'am, I did not.
Now, the reason that I asked the 2 of you for your background is because that would be one of the dumbest things that anybody could say. Oh, you crashed the motorcycle? It was my fault because the brakes were bad. I've had problems with the brakes myself. And I wanted to know what kind of moron he was, Mr. Darling, because he would have to be a big moron if I believed your answer, right?
Yes.
He would have to be a super big moron to say, oh, you hurt yourself, you're out of work, you ruined my motorcycle, and it's my fault because I let you drive a motorcycle with bad brakes.
If I could explain the circumstances.
Just a second.
Okay.
Do you understand where we're going, Mr. Darling?
Yes.
Good. Now you can explain the circumstances.
Okay, I test drove this motorcycle, and I was going below the posted speed limit of 25. I entered the turn. It was the final turn before I was back to his house. I noticed that there was gravel in the turn, which on a motorcycle you cannot go through a turn in gravel or you will slide out. So I had to stop before the turn so I could slowly proceed through it. Without the use of the back brakes, after pressing on the pedal and getting nothing from them, I wasn't able to slow down in time to make the turn, so I had to go straight into the ditch. On the way back, Mr. Bile was pushing the bike back, and me and my friend Allison were walking slightly behind. And I mentioned...
My friend Allison and I.
Yeah, my girlfriend Allison. I don't know. But anyway, we were walking back, and I mentioned to her, she was like, what happened? What happened? And I said, the brakes didn't work. The rear brakes, I pressed the pedal, and they just did not work. So when she said, you must tell him that, you have to tell him that. Once we got back to his house, I then proceeded to explain the rear brake difficulty that I had, and he was like, oh, yes, I did forget to mention that I have had problems with the brakes.
In a million years, I don't believe you.
No, ma'am.
My witness...
Yeah, I don't care. Your witness could stand there on a stack of Bibles, and I wouldn't believe her either. Were you bleeding?
Yes.
So you were injured.
Yes.
Visible. He could see that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he could see that his bicycle was ruined.
Mm-hmm.
And right there and then, he accepted responsibility for your injuries and the bicycle being crashed by saying, I had problems with the brakes.
I don't think it was something he meant to say, but once he was surprised by me saying that and did answer that the brakes did have difficulties. And I made a police report the day after the incident because I was in the hospital the night of. The police officer then looked over it and agreed that I wasn't responsible because there was really nothing I could do. So he gave me...
Show me the police officer wrote that. Let me see what the police officer wrote. Mr. Darling, that there was nothing you could do, that you weren't responsible. I'd like to see that in his report.
I don't have anything from that. He did.
Then I can't hear that, Mr. Darling, because if you don't have it, it doesn't exist.
Okay. He did speak to, or he came and spoke on my behalf in court, which I got out of the points of the ticket.
Did you get a ticket?
I did get a ticket.
For what?
For failure to control, because he said ultimately I was on
Don't tell me what he said. That's hearsay. You were convicted, correct?
I was cleared of the conviction after going to court.
You have a dismissal of that ticket with you.
I don't actually have the dismissal of the ticket, but I didn't receive any points on my license for the ticket.
I don't care whether you received points or not.
Okay.
Now, Mr. Bile, did you have any knowledge that there was damage to the brakes on this bike?
No, ma'am.
When was the time, immediately preceding the time Mr. Darling test drove the bike, that you rode the bike?
I think I rode it for the last time in November. The previous year, 2006.
How long had you had the bike?
I had it for 7 months.
So it was a brand new bike?
Brand new. Bought it from the dealer.
How much did you pay for the bike, sir?
$1,475.
And how much were you selling it to Mr. Darling?
I was selling it for $1,300 or best offer.
Well, that's what you're going to pay for it, Mr. Darling, because to fix it is going to cost $1,852.23.
I do have more evidence here that...
Yeah, go ahead. Let me hear.
He sent me a letter saying he was disappointed he hasn't heard from me about the bike to get a repayment. And in this letter, there's a list of what's wrong with the motorcycle, and the rear brake assembly is included in this list, which is the problem that I had with it, was with the rear brakes.
What else is in there?
He includes a very extensive release form that would discharge him, his family, and any representatives from any claims, demands, losses, or anything that I experienced.
Absolutely.
Meaning he must have felt that
Don't tell me what he felt.
Okay.
It's a brand new bike, 7 months old.
It was a very cheaply made bike, to say the least.
Then you shouldn't have taken it out, sir.
I know I shouldn't have,
And you shouldn't have taken it out. You did take it out, and you ruined it. You're going to pay for it. It's yours. You bought it. $1,300. Judgment for the plaintiff. Thank you very much.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
James Elmore is suing his sister, Shauna Padilla, for loans to pay her mortgage. James says he made payments on her behalf for 10 months.
Now it's case number 226 on the calendar in the matter of Elmore versus Padilla. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Folks, have a seat, please.
Mr. Elmore, the defendant is your sister.
Yes, ma'am.
And according to your complaint, you loaned her the money to make her mortgage payment for about a year.
Yes, ma'am. It was about 10 months, probably. Yes, ma'am.
And you loaned her that money with the understanding that if she did not pay you back, the title to the mobile home would be put in your name.
Yes, ma'am. Either or, some kind of assurance that I'd get something out of it.
And Ms. Padilla says that there was never an agreement that you paid her mortgage, but that was like rent because you were, in fact, living there. Now, explain to me how it came about that your sister and your mother were together in this mobile home.
Well, I moved to Mexico, and after I moved there, my sister had my mother move in with her. I was down there about 5.5 to 6 months. I came back in, like, July.
Where did you stay when you came back to work in July of 2004?
For the first, probably, month and a half, I stayed at her trailer.
So from, let's say, July and August.
In August, I was in California, in San Francisco.
When in August?
The 1st of August, I got a job traveling, working in refineries.
So you spent 1 month with your sister and your mother?
Probably about that.
Is that about right?
I wasn't there during that timeout.
Who was there?
She was there, ma'am.
All right, so you say she was there. So you lived there for a month in July. When did you have this conversation with her about the mortgage?
I'd say it was in June. The end of June.
So before you moved in?
Yeah, I was still in Mexico before we had this conversation.
So in Mexico, she called you and said what?
That she's a couple of months behind on her payment. They're about to repossess it, and she moved my mom in with her, and I didn't want my mom to be, stuck out because she didn't pay her bills.
So?
So I came back, and I got a job building swimming pools and started paying, And she said that she wasn't working because she was waiting on a workman's comp thing to come through, which after a while,
don't speak to him. At my stage in life, I can only hear one person talk at a time.
Yes,
otherwise I get confused.
But after a while, waiting on her workman's comp or whatever to start up so she could pay her own bills, it got kind of old. And she was quite a bit behind, about $1,100, I believe.
You were living in the trailer for the month of July.
Yes, ma'am.
So I would assume, at least for the month of July, you were going to pay some rent.
Yes, ma'am, but this month of July, I was paying the month of May's rent. I was paying her back payment.
if you paid her the back payment for the month of May, how much did you pay for rent in July when you were living there?
Well, I never had a set payment, you know. I mean, I guess I would owe for that month of rent, you know, but...
I guess you might.
Yes, ma'am.
Because you were working, right?
But see, none of that... Yes, ma'am. Go ahead.
You don't think that she should pay for a time when you were living there and not paying rent?
Yes, ma'am, but I was paying her bills too, evidently, because she was not working. She had no income coming in whatsoever.
How much in total did you pay towards this trailer?
Oh, trailer and utilities.
Trailer.
Trailer, I don't really have an exact on just a trailer, but I would just send money orders, and whatever they put it on, that was that.
That was nice of you. I don't hear anything about a loan.
Yes, ma'am. That's what all this was a loan.
Well, that's what you're telling me, sir. That's not what they tell me.
Yes, ma'am. But I would not have come back, you know, to pay all her bills. I was living in motels this entire time.
Not in July.
No, I got that job in August.
Not in July.
Or the past 5 months.
Listen to me. Where have you been living the last 5 months?
A couple of months I was there. But then she got mad because I wouldn't let her use my cell phone, so she told me to get out of her house. She ended up calling the police to have me removed.
Miss Padilla?
Yes, ma'am.
But anyway, my roommate here, he was having to loan me money because I was sending all my checks
I'm
in.
talking about the last 5 months, Mr. Elmore. Where were you living?
I've been living with him for the last month and a half. And a little while I had to live in a shed next door to the house, believe it or not. The night after she called the police, they made me leave and told me I couldn't come back. I stayed in the shed for about 3 weeks.
Mr. Elmore, you and I are not coming together on the same wavelength.
Yes, ma'am.
It's explained to me why you have a case of a loan.
Well, because
for all of those things.
I paid off her trailer payment. You know what I mean? Her trailer got paid for. And it all came from me, ma'am. Over $4,000 worth, and I was not living there.
Oh, Mr. Elmore.
I didn't have it separated.
Mr. Elmore.
Yes, ma'am.
Did you have an argument with your sister?
Yes, ma'am, we did.
What was the argument about, Mr. Elmore?
It started over the cell phone. She asked to borrow my cell phone, I wouldn't let her.
Why?
That just, I don't know.
You didn't feel like letting her?
Yes, ma'am.
So
no, I had no reason, but I just told her no. So
fine.
She told me to get out of her house, and I told her no. You know, I said, I paid all this. So she said it's in her name, and...
So she said it's in her name, get out of my house.
Yeah, exactly. I refused to leave. Well, she called the police.
And what happened when the police got there?
They made me leave. I left.
Is that when you filed this lawsuit?
It was a few days after that, when I was living in that shed. You know, I was watching the TV, and I just happened to see your show, and afterwards I called, you know.
What is your last name?
Elmore.
Miss Elmore, who do you live with now?
I live in the trailer with my daughter.
What about her?
She has moved into the trailer with me and my daughter. She lived there.
So that when I ask you a question, I expect you to give me a full answer. You live in the trailer with your daughter and this lady?
Yes.
Who
yes,
else lives there?
Just the three of us now.
Who pays the bills?
All three of us. Yes, ma'am.
Now, who was paying the bills, say, last July, August, September, October, November? Was your son paying the bills?
My son paid a lot. He did. I have never denied that, but I was paying too. It wasn't just Mike paying.
And your son contributed, according to him, some $4,000 over a 13-month period. Is that right?
Actually, it was more than that, but I've lost several receipts.
Now, Mr. Elmore,
yes, ma'am.
Would you be here today if it wasn't for this cell phone incident, sir?
Yes, ma'am. It had been going through my mind for a long time, you know, because I wanted my money back.
Well, you're not going to get all your money back, sir. You lived there for
I'm aware of that.
You lived there for 4 months.
Yes, ma'am. I'm aware of that.
Ma'am, he came back in March, and he did not leave again until the end of August. The last week of August.
No,
March, April, May, June, July. So it's 6 months.
Not the last week of August. It was about the middle of
August.
So the date on the last receipt I had was 5/5 of 05.
Just a second.
So that's May. That's not March, ma'am.
Just a second.
Yes, ma'am.
Are you saying your mother is a liar? She says you were there March, April, May, June, July, and part of August. So is what you're telling me that your mother is lying to me?
Yes, ma'am. I'm saying I was not there then.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. James Elmore says his sister, Shauna Padilla, owes for loans to make her mortgage payments. Shauna is countersuing for damages to her property.
Now, tell me, in March, he came back for how long?
It was about 2 weeks, I believe. And then he left out for the job. He never actually got to work on that job. He got sent back right after that.
And when did he come back?
I probably at the end of March.
So is he living in the trailer in April?
Yes, ma'am.
May?
Yes, ma'am.
June?
Yes, ma'am.
July?
Yes, ma'am.
And part of August?
No, ma'am,
Yes,
I was
ma'am.
not.
And part of August?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And the previous July, he was there when he came back from Mexico?
Yes, ma'am.
For 1 month?
Yes.
Miss Judy, she says that I was there before then. When like I said, I got the date on the first receipt that I paid is 7/14 of 04. I was paying a May 15th bill because when she called me, she was 3 months back.
Listen to me, Mr. Elmore.
She got her dates confused, ma'am.
No, Mr. Elmore, listen to me carefully, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
Your sister does not deny, nor will she deny to me today, that she called you and said, I've gotten behind in my bills.
I didn't call him, ma'am.
Or contacted him, or whatever, and said, I need some help. She's not denying that you gave her some help because the mortgage was behind. What your family is saying to you is, you lived there for a longer period than you've indicated to me today, not just a couple of days, which you say in your complaint, you know, that your employer pays for your motel and that's where you were living, that you were living there for a period of at least, according to both your mother, who I believe, and your sister, July, part of March, April, May, June, July, and part of August. So at least 6.5 months. And for that, living there for all of that time, you contributed $4,200. That's pretty reasonable. You have a roof over your head, you have gas, you have electric, you have food, you have whatever else it takes. And if you helped your family out for another 3.5 months, you don't come in here and bother me about that. What you're annoyed about is that your sister, for whatever reason, after you said she couldn't use your cell phone, told you to leave. So you got annoyed, and then you had nothing to do, so you went and watched me on television and said, aha! I'm going to go and file a small claims court case. Mr. Elmore,
Well,
Mr. Elmore, get a life. Case is dismissed.
I desire excuse. You may step out.
Excuse me, excuse me, excuse me.
I have a counterclaim.
It's dismissed.
Okay.
If he bothered you, annoyed you for a year, and you let him bother you and annoy you for the year, that makes you not too smart.
I moved out of the state to get
Very
away from him.
good. That's exactly what you should do.
She got a free trailer, that's what happened.
I paid plenty for that trailer.
She got a heck of a ride off of me.
I have also done many, many things to contribute towards his welfare growing up.
My mother was there, you know? I mean, she wasn't doing nothing to help him.
It breaks my heart.
Don't trust no family member.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Evans versus Fry Leach. Step forward, please.
24-year-old Brandy Evans is suing Kathleen Fry and her ex-boyfriend, Patrick Leach, for damage to her car. Brandy claims Patrick was riding his bike when he crashed into her parked vehicle.
Miss Fry, are you the neighbor of the plaintiff?
Not of the plaintiff, of the plaintiff's witness.
And this is your boyfriend?
Ex-boyfriend, yes.
How long has he been your ex-boyfriend?
Since about last November.
And how long was he your boyfriend?
About 18 years.
That took you a long time to decide he wasn't the right one. Huh?
Sometimes you don't think.
Was there any particular reason why you terminated the relationship?
We just weren't getting along anymore.
Did he drink a little bit?
No, he never drank.
Never?
Before we started going out, he drank, but he never drank during our relationship. I drank.
Now, you were riding a bicycle?
Yes, ma'am.
With your girlfriend?
Yes, ma'am.
Where had you been riding?
We usually rode 10 to 15 miles a night, just around our neighborhood and just around our block and so on and so forth.
And at what time of the evening did you return to the house?
It was probably between 8 and 8:30 in the evening.
So it was dark?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you always ride at night?
Yes, we did. It
You
was
have
mostly
lights
at
on
night.
your bikes?
No, we don't.
Are you supposed to?
Yes, we are.
Probably.
Probably, yeah.
Do you wear a helmet?
Yes, I do.
For what?
Safety reasons, in case somebody pulls out in front of me and
Right.
Right.
That's why you have lights on bikes if you're going to be riding at night. And so tell me what happened, Mr. Leach.
Our street was very dark. It has no street lights. I was pedaling, and her car is the color of night. It blended in, and it was parked, if I could show you on the diagram, it was parked probably a little farther back, but it was, to me, it was illegally parked. And it was on a corner. I was pedaling, and I looked up, and next thing you know, under the tree, next thing you know, I hit the front end of the car.
Okay, so Mr. Leach, we are talking now about certain things that you can do nothing about, because as night follows day, that's science. And in science, it's going to get dark outside. So when you're driving a vehicle, what they do is when a vehicle is operating, they put lights on the car. so that you can see where you're going after night falls, right? So it's not the night's fault that you hit the car. Now, cars can be painted in many colors. It's not the car's fault that it was painted the color of night, right?
Correct.
So it can't be the car's fault that it was that color. Now, how long do you think this big tree has been living on the corner?
I couldn't tell you.
10 years?
Since before he moved in.
Yeah.
The tree didn't move, right?
Correct.
So it can't be the tree's fault that you hit her car. And the last thing that you said was her car, you believe, was parked illegally.
True.
But the car didn't move.
Correct.
There was only one thing that was moving. Mr. Leach, that would be you.
I totally agree.
Now, Miss Evans, tell me, you were awakened to the alarm going off in your car?
No, we were watching a movie. I was over at my friend's house.
And what
happened? It was around 11 p.m., and I heard my alarm going off.
So the alarm did go off as a result of being hit?
Yes. So I walked out, and they weren't near my car. They were walking away from my car. And I walked down and looked at my fog light, and my fog light was broken on the ground. And I walked back up halfway to the driveway, and that's when Kathy stopped me.
Had you known her before that evening?
No.
So you never met her before?
No.
She walked up to you and said?
And said, we were riding our bikes, and my boyfriend hit your car. And I looked over at him, and he was laying on the grass with his bike.
That's not true.
And
shh, Mr. Leach. Shh, Mr. Leach, look at me.
And Kathy said she was going to run and go get her information, and that she did not want to go through the police. She did not want to go through insurance. That she wanted to pay cash. And she walked back over and said he had some to drink, and that here's her information to put estimates in her mailbox, and that she would get back to me. And she gave me her number. She gave me her work phone, her cell phone.
Miss Fry, did you write down your telephone number, your work number?
I gave her my business card.
What did you give her your business card for?
For the purpose of, I had walked over and explained that he had hit the car and that he was lying on the ground because he had hurt himself when the bike hit the car. And I said, I will get you the information and you can get estimates and the two of you can work it out. I brought her the information back over. I never stated that he was drinking because he wasn't. And I never stated that I would pay her cash because I am not the one that hit the car.
What do you want to say?
I was standing there and listened to her state that she would pay Brandy in cash to settle the matter.
Tell me your last name.
Curran.
How long had you been neighbors, Miss Curran?
I've lived there approximately 6 years.
Okay. Mr. Leach.
Yes, ma'am.
There is no reason why Miss Fry should take responsibility for this.
Exactly.
So if the court were going to enter a judgment, it would have to be a judgment against you.
Correct.
So that, Miss Fry, you may sit down. Thank you. Now, sir, you're there all on your own. In 10 seconds, give me your best shot as to why you're not responsible for this.
I never said I was not responsible. I hit the car. But what I am disputing is they brought over estimates for $1,400 for the car, which to me was a little outrageous. We told them to get another estimate in a local place. They've done work on our cars before, and they were more reasonable. They've probably given a reasonable rate. They never went there.
Mr. Leach, let me stop.
Sure.
A second. Is it that you don't like the amount of money that she's asking for because you believe it's excessive, or that you don't believe you're responsible?
The amount of money, and then we had an estimate for $1,400 and $1,600. Now it's $1,800.
Well, now she's going to show me the estimates.
I have
and the photographs.
The first estimate that I gave them, that was for the $1,400. When I gave it to her, she asked me to go and get another one with their body, a place, and it shows it was only a month afterwards, not even a month after the accident, that I have for that quote.
Just a second. What was the name of the body shop where you wanted them to go?
Boulevard.
This is one of those from Boulevard?
Yes, and that's my third one.
Can I see it, please?
We never got that one.
We never got those.
Shh. I don't care whether you did or not. Now I have them. So am I correct? Boulevard gives you $621.72?
Mm-hmm. That was just the paint that they said. They didn't say anything about the hood. That is, I have pictures of my hood and where it's not aligned with the other side from where he fell on it. And
Your Honor, I did not fall on the hood.
I have your handlebar marks on my hood.
Well, there is damage to the hood. All right, anything you want to say?
I just, I want to know. She got an estimate from Boulevard, for just paint. Well, you know what? To me, if I'm going to get an estimate for the body work, I'm just not going to ask for paint for the $600 and something. I'm going to say, I'm going to say, hey, it's just, I need the body work done. I don't understand that.
I went in and asked for an estimate, and that's what they gave me. I didn't ask them just to do paint.
Did you ask them for an estimate to fix it or to paint it?
To fix it. I said I needed it fixed.
The damage to this car can't be done for $600. She's got something wrong with the hood of the car that's going to have to be pulled out, painted if it's going to be done right. The $1,300 is a reasonable estimate. Okay, judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,360.64. Thank you.
Thank you. Parties are excused. You may step out.
Bourbon McDaniel says her daughter, Glenda Julius, owes for the cost of her granddaughter's funeral. Bourbon claims Glenda received aid from the state and refuses to give her the money.
All rise. Quiet in the courtroom. All rise. Now, this is case number 201 on the calendar in the matter of McDaniel versus Julius. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Ladies, have a seat, please.
Ms. McDaniel, the defendant is your daughter.
Yes, ma'am.
Your complaint is really a simple one, and your complaint is that you made 2 loans to your daughter.
Yes, ma'am.
And she has not paid you back. Your daughter says that these were not loans, they were really gifts. But the matter becomes more complicated because of the nature of the loans that you claim to your daughter. Miss Julius, you had a daughter who was murdered.
Yes, ma'am.
When was she murdered?
September 24th. She was found dead in her room.
In your home?
In her home.
Has the perpetrator of that murder ever been found?
There are 3 people apprehended as of right now for first-degree murder.
How old was your daughter?
17.
According to you, Miss McDaniel, you went to where your daughter was living, and your daughter did not have money for burial.
That's right.
You agreed to loan her the money for the burial.
Yes, ma'am.
Subsequently, your daughter, who was not happy staying in the same house where her daughter was murdered, which is quite understandable because people had not been apprehended at that time, asked if she could relocate, and you agreed to loan her some money.
Yes, ma'am.
So that she could relocate. What was the extent of those 2 sums of money? The funeral was how much?
$4,582.27.
And how much did you advance your daughter to relocate?
$1,487.68.
The matter becomes more complicated because at some point, Miss Julius, you ascertained that there was a crime victim's compensation that you could apply for.
The DA.
The DA?
From Carroll County.
Told you what?
Told me that there was a victims fund relief.
And what was it for?
It was for expenses for Jessica's death. And I have been making payments.
Just a second. Expenses for Jessica's death?
Yes.
Which included her burial?
Which my mother gave as a gift.
Listen to me very carefully.
Which included, yes.
So the state of Tennessee had a fund which provided for the survivors of victims of violent crime to give them money so that they could pay for burial?
Yes.
And other related expenses?
Yes.
You applied for that?
Yes.
And you got a check?
Yes.
How much was the check?
One was $5,300 and the other one was $1,024.
Can I see the paperwork surrounding those 2 checks, please?
There was a few gas expenses.
Can I see the paperwork? For the...
This is exactly what
Bert, I'll take a look
but
at
I
it.
have more different, I have receipts to where I have been paying my mother.
Just a second. They paid you $5,307.27 for the funeral. And then there are other related expenses, moving expenses. Are you telling me that you have proof that you gave some of this money to your mother?
Yes, I have.
I'd like to see it, please.
I have receipts. Here, this is for money orders. She told me that her payments were $70 and $40. I talked to my sister Gail that's standing next to her over the telephone. She was in California. I talked to her, and she said, have you been giving her money? I said, yeah. She told me $70 and $40 on her credit cards. And that's exactly, I've been giving her a little bit more.
Well, I see what you're talking about. You gave her $30, $40.
And it started on 11/3, excuse me.
I understand that, but these are very small amounts of money. When did you get the check from the state?
In April. She told me it was on credit cards, and as long as I was helping her out, there was no lump sum that I was supposed to give her. She knew I would have to go home. I have a headstone to purchase for my daughter, which is $910. And I'm working at a minimum wage job. I moved out because it was so unbearable to live with her in her house.
Let's go back a second. You got this money, which is about $6,500. What did you do with it?
I've been living on it. And also, I have money set aside to buy Jessica's stone and money set aside to go home.
Well,
because
so
I cannot live.
Just a second. You just told me that the stone is $900.
$910.
Fine. And did you order it?
I've already talked to...
Yes. Don't play with me.
Yes.
Did you order it?
Yes.
Did you pay for it?
Not as of yet.
Why not?
Because she started this lawsuit.
What's the name of the company that's going to do the stone?
Memorial Gardens.
Well, you certainly have $900 for the stone because you got $6,500. And my problem with you, Miss Julius, is because this is not a very difficult case. Whether your mother said to you, as you allege in your answer, it's the least I can do to give you the money for the funeral, right? That's what she alleges you said to her, or not. The good people of the state of Tennessee did not provide this money for you to live on. The good people of the state of Tennessee wanted to ensure that your daughter had an appropriate burial. So you cannot take their money and do what you want with it. You have to take their money and pay for her funeral. That's what it was earmarked for by the state. Because whether you and your mother, according to you, you colluded to defraud the state by her signing papers that said she's going to pay me back, and she really didn't mean that you were going to pay her back, that's a fraud on the state. I can't sanction that. Do you understand that?
Yes, ma'am.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. Bourbon McDaniel is suing her daughter, Glenda Julius, for the cost of her granddaughter's funeral. Glenda says her mother is heartless.
What kind of work do you do?
I'm working in a dry cleaners. I'm having trouble dealing with the public.
What kind of work did you do before your daughter's death?
I was working in a convenience store, third shift.
Your mother paid for the funeral. According to the claim that you put into the criminal injuries compensation claim for Jessica Dawn Julius, the funeral was $5,307.27. That's what you told the state, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And the funeral was actually $45.82?
The difference was donations from the school where Jessica went.
What?
I have a paper that states each and every one that gave donation to the funeral.
Can I see it, please?
Yes.
The family that Jessica was, Lisa Stevens' family, were there and willing, and the whole town was willing to help out with this. My mother is the one that wanted me to move. I left everything I owned.
Listen to me. I'm not talking about the moving. I'm talking about the fact that you cannot take this money and live on it. I have to make a judgment whether the person who actually paid for the funeral, and that's your mother, or you who did not pay for the funeral, are the rightful recipients of this money from the state, which is earmarked for your daughter's burial expenses. Do you understand that?
Yes, ma'am.
And there were some very nice people from the town who also sent checks in for the funeral. But that's not the issue. The issue really is a very simple one. Whether your mother, at the time that your daughter died, and I believe that she probably did, say to you, this is a terrible time. I don't want you to worry about the funeral. I'll take care of it. Because that's what a parent does. But then when you found out that there was a possibility, because you said that the district attorney told you that there was a fund, that was after your daughter was buried, correct?
Yes.
So after your mother laid out that money, and probably would not have sought to recoup it because you have limited circumstances, that'd be a fair statement. But after she found out that you were going to get this money from the state for the funeral, the right thing for you to do was to give it back to her.
I've been giving her close to $1,500.
No. That may have been fine, Miss Julius, giving her $30, giving her $70, until you got $6,500. Once you got $6,500, you had to say, Mom, clean up the credit card, pay it off, because that's what this check was supposed to be used for.
Yes,
we
ma'am.
understand each other?
Yes, ma'am.
Good. Let's not pursue this any further. Your family has had sufficient amount of sadness to last for a lifetime. So you have the money, and even if your mother is awarded the $5,000, you still have money left over for the headstone, and then some. Right? Good. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $5,000. That's all.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I love my daughter. love my granddaughter.
It was a gift to bury Jessica.
She's using it very foolishly, but she'll have to live with that for the rest of her life.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Savage versus Balding.
Nancy Savage is suing the mother of her grandson, Melissa Balding, for bail money. Nancy says Melissa and her son were arrested on drug charges.
All right, everybody listen very carefully because this is a long saga to get to a simple question. Miss Savage, I assume this is your son.
Yes, it is.
This is his girlfriend.
Yes, it is.
Ex-girlfriend.
True.
They have a child together.
True.
She doesn't have custody of the child. He doesn't have custody of the child. One of your other children has custody of the child because both of these two people were, in somebody's opinion, not capable of taking care of this child. According to your complaint, some time ago, your son was driving your car with her in the car. When did that happen?
About a year ago, a little over a year ago.
Let's have a month.
April 30th, 2004.
He's not your only child, is he?
No.
Perfect. It's a perfect example of don't put all your eggs in one basket. When they got pulled over, there were drugs in the car. I assume, Miss Savage, that they didn't belong to you.
Right.
So the two of them got hauled into court and your car was impounded. According to you, you bailed out your son and Miss Balding, and you want your bail money, which was how much?
$750.
You also would like her to pay for the towing fees on the car and the impound fees.
The impound fees.
That she's not going to pay for because the Hulk over here was the one driving your car, right?
Yes.
And you gave him permission to drive your car, I assume. So I would suggest you get the impound and towing fees back from him. By the way, have you paid your mother back for your bail?
Yes, I have. Except for $50 of it.
What about the towing fees?
No, I haven't.
Where were the drugs found?
They were found behind the glove box, stashed.
Whose drugs were they?
They were his drugs.
Had you used drugs that day?
No.
Were you under the influence of drugs that
No.
day? Were you under the influence of alcohol that day?
That was possible.
What?
Yes, ma'am.
What time of the day was this?
Around 12 o'clock in the afternoon because I was laying out at my pool.
What time had you started drinking?
Around 12 o'clock.
He's shaking his head no. I tend to believe him. Were any charges ultimately brought against you?
Yes, ma'am.
For what?
That I'm not quite sure about them, but I have this paper right here stating that it was all dropped and dismissed.
Let me see that, please.
I have on the bail slip that I got her what her charges were.
Can I see that, please?
And she has one more charge than my son was, which I believe is being under the influence. She admitted to the police that she had taken somas.
What is that?
It's a muscle relaxer. Not that day, but previous.
Now tell me about the call you received, Miss Savage, from the defendant about the bail.
First of all, one of their friends notified me that their car had been pulled over, so I went to where it was because it was less than a mile from my house. And I asked the officer if I could get my car, and he said no, there were drugs involved, and one of them was under the influence, and so they were going to impound it. So I asked him where my grandchild was, and the officer went over and asked Melissa, and she told him it was at her apartment. So I told him I would take responsibility and go get Brian and have him stay with me.
Who was watching him?
Some of their friends.
Go ahead.
So I went and brought my grandson home, and I was trying to calm him and everything. He was very upset.
How old is he?
2.5.
Go ahead.
I told him that Mommy and Daddy were having car problems, and when their car was fixed, that they would come and get him, and he told me that I should take him to where they were. So Melissa started calling. The first call, she was like, you have to get me out of here. I can't stay in here. You need to get me out. I'll do anything. Whatever it is, I'll pay you back. Just get me out. And that was the first of one of many calls. I probably got between 15 and 20 calls that night, and every time she called, she woke my grandson up. And
what about your son?
He called me once.
Did you go and bail him out?
I bailed both of them out.
No. He called you once?
Once.
When did you bail him out?
Steve got released around 2 o'clock that afternoon, and Melissa got released 8:30, 9 o'clock that morning because there was a woman in jail that Melissa had identified for another crime.
Oh, just a second. This incident happened at 12 noon.
No, the incident happened at like 10 o'clock that night that they were pulled over.
Yes. Oh, so she had been drinking from 12 noon until 10 o'clock at night, according to her. Oh, I didn't understand that. Now I understand. Okay, and during that whole time, she called you numerous times.
She called me about 15 to 20 times, and she told me that they wanted to test her for drugs and she wasn't going to give them a urine sample, and that when she had to go to the bathroom that she would have the girls in the waiting cell stand around her so they didn't know that she was urinating.
Step up. What happened to your case?
My case was dropped before hers was.
What kind of drugs were found in the car?
Marijuana, pills, and methamphetamines.
Whose were they?
Hers.
Oh. That's interesting. Not yours.
The marijuana was mine. I admitted to the cop when we were stopped. He asked if there were any drugs in the vehicle, and the marijuana was in my pocket. And I handed that to him, and he found the other drugs when we asked for my license and registration. When she opened the glove box door, he saw a container that everything else was in.
Who are you?
Her mother.
Step up. Why do you think your daughter didn't call you to bail her out?
Because I taught her not to call me and bail any of my children out until they have gone to their first preliminary hearing.
She was in Ohio.
Just a second.
They'll possibly lower the
Just a
bail or
second.
drop the
What's your last name?
Daly.
Miss Daly, how many children do you have that have been arrested?
Oh, this one.
So when you said you've taught all your children not to call you until after they have had their first bail hearing, you were really referring just to her?
No, I raised 4 daughters as a single parent.
Yes.
And I worked in law enforcement for 30 years.
Yes.
And I just informed them that if they got into a situation where they ended up in jail, I would hope this wouldn't happen, but I just wanted to make sure that they knew what to do.
How many years have you spent in law enforcement?
All told, 20.
Between us, we have more than a half a century in law enforcement, Miss Daly. How many children do you have?
4.
Between us, we have 9 children. Did you ever have a conversation and tell your children, if you ever get arrested, make sure you wait until your first bail hearing because your bail will probably be lowered? Do you remember having that conversation when you told them about, you know, don't talk to strangers, don't go near people's vans? You ever remember having that conversation with your 4 children?
Negative.
Me neither. So you want to go through this one more time with me? Because unless you're kooky, because I never heard of a mother, even in law enforcement, sitting her children down and saying, listen, never talk to strangers, be home at midnight, don't give any strangers your phone number, and if you ever get arrested, I want you to wait until your first bail hearing before you call me because your bail may be reduced. Were you happy to get out of jail?
Yes, ma'am.
Pay her the money. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $750. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Billy Tyler, 22-year-old Tiffany Cantrell for a false arrest and harassment. Tiffany claims her father was hiding her car.
Now, this is case number 217 on the calendar, the matter of Tyler versus Cantrell. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. Folks, have a seat.
Mr. Tyler, the defendant is your daughter, and it is your claim that she had you falsely arrested for stealing her car. Your daughter says that you did exercise control over that car without her permission. She had every right to notify the police that you had, in fact, taken the car without permission. So let me start with you, Miss Cantrell. I understand that you are married.
Yes, ma'am.
Your husband is in the armed services.
Yes, ma'am.
Where is he currently located?
He's in Afghanistan.
And how long has he been there?
He's been deployed since October.
This car was originally purchased for him.
Yes, ma'am.
Tell me how it came about that your father got the car in his possession.
The car was on my grandmother's property, and he took it because he was angry that my mom had left him.
Where did you get the car from, Mr. Tyler?
Judge, I originally bought the car in Cleveland, Alabama at a car auction.
What do you mean you bought the car?
I was there to buy some cars, and my ex-wife had called her, and she came over to the auction. And she seen the car, and she said, I'd like to have this for Kevin, her husband.
Who paid for the car?
She did.
So that she
wrote a
bought the
check.
car.
She
You
wrote,
didn't pay for the car.
No, she
Well,
wrote
you
a check.
said, I bought the car
Well,
An auction.
I meant, Judge, that I was there to buy the car, and she wanted it, so I let her have it. That's how.
You were at an auction to buy several cars. Your daughter
Yes.
came with you. She saw a car that she wanted. She wrote out the check for it, so she bought the car.
Right.
Don't play with me, Mr. Tyler.
Okay, I'm not, Judge.
I guarantee you,
Okay.
it's not going to happen. Okay, so your daughter bought a car, and according to her, she parked it at her grandmother's house.
No, Judge.
Where was it?
It was in my yard.
So it was in the yard of the house where you were living.
Uh-huh.
Who were you living there with?
My ex-wife.
Anybody else?
My cousin.
What's the address of this house?
77, Highway 75.
And is that where the car was taken from?
No, ma'am.
Where was it taken from?
71, Highway 75.
That's where your grandmother lives?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you live next door to your mother-in-law?
That's my mother, Judge.
Or your mother?
Yes, ma'am.
Was the car parked at her house at any time?
No, Judge.
Okay. How did it come about that you took control over this car?
When the car was bought, it was to be brought to my house to fix for Kevin. And at the time, Judge, they were going to pay for it to be fixed. And Kevin had gotten hurt and come home. And Kevin asked me when he was home if I would keep the car at my house until he came back and fix what it needed, and when I get home, I'll pay you for it.
Okay.
So we had a windshield put in it. When you walk out my back door, it was sitting right there with a car cover on it. Then, Judge, when my ex-wife left...
Okay, so you separated.
Yes, ma'am.
Go ahead.
It's a long story behind it.
Let's put it simply. Ultimately, she wanted the car.
To give it to her mom, because I wouldn't let her mom
Just a
have
second.
one.
In whose name was the car titled?
Mine.
Yours?
And my husband's.
So she said, I want the car. I'm going to give it to Mama.
Yes.
So what did you do?
I had told her prior to this that me and Sammy was going to fix the car. He told me, he said, if you'll pay for the parts, I'll do the labor, and when Kevin comes home, we'll give it to him. And, Judge, that's what I had in mind doing.
I don't care what you had in mind, sir.
She...
I don't care what you had in mind. I got the gist of it. You and her mother separated, and she said, I want the car to give to Mama.
Right.
I assume that's because her mother didn't have a car.
Right. And
okay, and you said no.
And not unless you pay me.
Okay, so now you want to be paid before Kevin came back from Afghanistan.
Well, if she was going to take it. Okay.
You had made an arrangement with Kevin that he would pay you for the parts when he came back from Afghanistan.
Yes, ma'am.
That was your contract.
Yes, ma'am.
So now you're changing the contract because now you want to get paid right away.
Well, the car was to stay there, Judge, till he came home.
No. It can go anywhere that the owner says it can go.
But he told me to keep it there until
But then you spoke to him again, and he said to give it to her.
No, he called on the phone, Judge.
I said you spoke to him again, and he said to give it to my wife.
If she pays.
No.
Yeah.
He said, give it to my wife.
If she pays the labor to Sammy, not the parts, but just the labor.
Labor to Sammy has nothing to do with you.
Right.
What did you do with the car?
Well, a couple of days there, the car winded up. You could tell where it had tried to be broken into. Not for sure who done it. We took it and put it in storage.
Not we. You.
Well, me and my cousin. He had done the labor on it, Judge, and I'd paid for the parts.
Did you tell her where it was?
Yes, I told her I'd put it in storage, and when she paid us, she could get it. There was a labor lien against it. And she wanted proof of it, Judge, so I sent her proof of it.
Let me see what you mailed her.
And may I speak, Judge?
No, now it's her turn.
Okay.
Go ahead.
When they sent this letter, they did send the letter, but it was not sent until after the investigator had called and spoke with him about my car.
Is that right?
Yes, ma'am. I have the report. And
Can I
also...
see the report,
yes,
please? That's interesting, because you send her this ridiculous note that says, I have in my possession a Pontiac Firebird, and there is a $10 storage fee on it. And then you change the amount of repair bill. It looks like you put first it was $1,300, then it was $700. I don't know. Can't figure this out. And you say if you don't respond within 90 days, the car will be sold at public auction. Now this, I don't know what date this is, but she signed for it on May 23rd, because she allegedly sent this by certified mail. But she filed this incident report on the 16th of May, which is before you sent this letter to her. So the police contacted you. Put your hand down. Police contacted you and said, where's the car?
Probably.
Or they contacted Sammy.
No, they come out and contacted me.
Oh, there you go. And then you sent her this letter.
Judge, the officer, the day he came out, he wanted a copy of that letter. The day the officer come out and talked.
It's absolutely impossible, sir, because you dated this letter May 17th. That was the next day after the officer took this complaint.
Judge, he didn't come out the day he took the complaint.
I don't care whether he came out and took the complaint on that day or not. It doesn't make any difference, sir.
Okay.
What I'm telling you is, I got the whole story. You know what the whole story is? You were mad at your ex-wife.
Oh, yeah.
And you didn't want her to have a car. Don't shake your head no to me. You were angry, you didn't want her to have a car, and you had worked on this car, and when your daughter said, I'm going to give this car to Mama to use because you're not giving her a car, you said, over my dead body, because I put money in that car, and I was going to give it to Kevin, but I won't give it to the woman who I've lived with for the last, I don't know, how many years, 30 years?
24, Judge.
24, and raised a bunch of children with how many children?
4.
4 children. I'm not going to give it to her because I don't like her. I like this stranger, now husband of my child, and I'd give him for nothing, but I'm not giving it to my ex-wife because who the hell does she think she is throwing me out?
You're right.
Well, that's too damn bad. You had no right. That's too bad, Mr. Tyler.
Judge Judy continued. Billy Tyler says his daughter, Tiffany Cantrell, had him falsely arrested for stealing her car.
Mr. Tyler?
She took it all and gave it to a man one time. She ain't going to do it again.
Listen to me, Mr. Tyler. I don't know the reason, after 24 years and raising 4 children with somebody, that they say, I don't want to live with him anymore. I'm not going back over that. I don't know whether you were a good husband, whether you were not a good husband, whether you were a kind person to her, whether she was a kind person to you. I have no idea.
She's the one who left.
She may have had good reason. Let me tell you something about most women. And how old is your wife?
42.
Most women, if they have a loving mate, someone who cherishes them and cares for them,
Some of them appreciate it.
I'm speaking, and treat them well, they don't say, I'd rather go it alone. See, sometimes men do, because, you know, men will turn around and they'll say, well, I can find somebody who's 20. What do I need? This 42-year-old who's raised my 4 children. Now, your wife must not be a bad person because her daughter says, I'm going to let you use this car if Daddy won't give you a car. So evidently, uncross your hands. Your wife may have taken your attitude for 24 years. I don't. What I'm telling you is you had no right to take that car and put it in a place where she couldn't find it. And you didn't do it because you put a mechanic's lien on it. You did it because you were PO'd at your wife. And that you had no right to do. You had no right to exercise dominion and control over a car that did not belong to you. Now, your daughter, as far as I'm concerned, should not have gone to the police, should have tried to settle this matter civilly. But then again, you took your mother's side in this altercation. So, yeah, you felt badly for her.
Somewhat, yes, ma'am.
You felt badly for her. So, in a family situation, should she have gone to the police? Probably not. Did she have a legal right to go to the police because you exercised dominion and control over her car? Absolutely. Don't say no. She did. And what they found when they found you not guilty wasn't because you weren't guilty of exercising control over the car, sir. What they said was, this is really a family matter, and we're not going to find you guilty of a criminal act because what you were really doing was acting vindictive. And we're not going to get involved with that. So, sir, she had the legal right, put your hand down, she had a legal right to call the police to make a police report that she no longer had a car that was titled in her name and that you had.
Even though she had brought the car down there and told me to fix it.
Listen to me, sir. You can't trip over your own words. What you said to me 10 minutes ago was, it was your intention to fix the car. First, you said you were going to make a gift to Kevin when he came back from Afghanistan. Then you changed that and you said, well, I spoke to him and he said to me he would pay me for the parts when he came back from Afghanistan. She never told you she would pay you for anything, unless you're going to change your story again.
Judge,
right. You have no case, Mr. Tyler. Grow up. That's all.
Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Her mother left after me catching her with another man.
He's been abusive to my mom my whole life.
Didn't only catch her with another man, I caught her 3 days later sitting on a computer in my home talking to another man.
He let that come between a relationship with his daughter and his grandchildren.
I told her to get out of my home because we'd been divorced 4 years ago, and I put her out.
He didn't kick her out. She left in the middle of the night because he wouldn't let her leave on her own.
I've seen the car in the home, and I was there the day that someone tried to break in it.
She said, no, I'm going to get the car, and I'm not paying neither one of you nothing. And she did.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Johnson versus Loeffler. Step forward.
Jean Johnson is suing her daughter, 28-year-old Christine Leffler for 2 unpaid loans. Jean says her daughter is taking advantage of her.
Miss Johnson, this young lady is your daughter.
Yes.
Your complaint alleges 2 loans to your daughter, and she
Yes.
has repaid neither.
Correct.
Your daughter says that her family came on hard times. You were kind enough to offer her some money for housing. She accepted your offer, which was a gift, not a loan.
Yes.
Tell me about the first amount of money that your mother gave you.
My mother had given us $2,000.
When?
April, I believe.
Why?
My husband was the owner-operator of his own business, a trucking company, and we're from Massachusetts. It was very snowy this winter, so his work slowed down quite a bit. And then he had to have major surgery on his colon, and that put him out of work for a couple months. So things were very bad for us, you know, mortgage-wise. So we decided that, you know, it might be better for my husband's business, trucking, to move to Florida. It's always sunny there. You don't have to worry about missed days. So, you know, we found a house and that we liked, and she gave us the money.
I didn't give the money.
Okay, just a second. Wait 1 second. Tell me about the call that you got for the $2,000.
Well, they did have hard times, and she did call me, and she needed some help with the deposit on the house that they were going to get in Florida. I was against it. You know, I didn't want my grandson going all the way to Florida. You know, you're a grandmother.
That's true.
And I told her I would loan her the money, but I needed the money back. It was
When did you expect her, and how did you expect her to pay it back?
Her house was on the market, and she had promised to pay me back after May 26th when she sold her house.
Now, when was the next loan? When was the next amount of money that your mother gave you?
I'm not sure of the exact dates, but, you know, we did talk about that, and she knew that we were on hard times. And when we did get an offer on the house, it was less than what we had expected.
Well, how much did you get?
We got about 17 grand. Unfortunately, due to being behind, you know, my husband had to catch up.
So you netted $17,000 in profit?
Yes.
And how much was this second amount of money that your mother gave you, and for what?
She had found us a rental house in Westboro. Every time I would go over to her house, I would get
Well, the first house fell through in Florida.
Well, that was to build for us to own. She had found us a rental house.
Why did it fall through?
The builder had been put to a halt in Florida. He had too many outstanding projects per the person that we were going through.
So you lost the $2,000?
Yes. Yep. So she had found us a house in Westboro. She gave the woman the money to secure it so we'd be in the same town as her. And I knew that she knew that we had no way of paying her back. I couldn't pay my mortgage. How was I going to pay her back all this money? It's ridiculous.
Out of the sale of the house?
Well, that's just the thing, Your Honor. I mean, everybody else that, you know, my husband had his truck that he owned, which was quite a lot of money every month, so we had all these back months that I had to pay. And, you know, we owed money to his parents. I mean, it was just out of control this winter.
How much money did you owe to his parents?
We owed his parents $5,000.
They got their money.
Shh. Did you pay him back?
Yes.
Did your mother know that you had paid back your husband's parents?
Yes.
What does your mom do for a living?
She works in an office.
And your father?
My father's a retired policeman.
So he has a pension?
I believe so.
And your in-laws?
My father's a retired state policeman.
Your father-in-law?
My father-in-law, excuse me, is a retired state policeman.
So he has a pension?
Yes.
And your mother-in-law?
I believe she works at TJ Maxx still.
They have comparable kind of incomes. Why would you choose to pay back your in-laws and not your mother?
Because it's my mother, and because she knew that we were in difficult times. I mean, my husband had to go back and take a job working for somebody again. He had to sell the truck, ultimately, because we couldn't afford to pay for it.
Well,
so now you go from making this much money to making this much money, and all these people that you owed, they really don't care. They want their money either way. So trying to raise an 8-year-old and,
Ms.
you know
Leffler, I understand you, and I am compassionate to your position. And to be quite honest with you, unless your parents had their back to the wall and needed this money desperately, I don't think I would have pursued this matter in a court. I'm telling you right now, Ms. Johnson, I would not have done that because I think that your daughter, she strikes me as being a reasonable person. But I think, Mrs. Leffler, that you could have handled it a little more reasonably and said to your husband, listen, we have one pot of money. We have $5,000 that we're able to scrape together to pay back our collective parents. And we can't pay them all back what we should together. So let's work it out and give each set of parents $2,500 and say, you know, we're going to try our best to put some money together so that we will have the respect of both sets of parents, not just one.
Well, I really didn't think that she wanted, I mean, I didn't think it was a loan. I really didn't.
Well, but listen, you can't tell me that the first time you heard about it was when you got served with a small claims summons. This is something that's been going on for a while. And I'm going to suggest to you that your mother might have let this slide for a longer period of time until she found out that you paid back your in-laws $5,000. Because, quite frankly, that would irritate me. You say to me, it's a very interesting thing, you said to me, it's because it's my mother.
Well, can I say that she didn't want the money until she decided she wanted to pay off her second summer car. She's got a nice Saab convertible. Not really something you need to have, but she has it. So, you know, I have to give her this money because she wants to pay her car off.
Just a minute. That's not your determination to make.
But all of a sudden it's...
What do you do for a living?
I work in an office.
Same as your mother? Mm-hmm. And your husband's working now?
Well, he's working for somebody now. He's not making the kind of money he used to.
Well, he's working?
Yes.
And you have one child?
We do.
When did you pay back your in-laws?
When we sold the house.
You owe your mother the money. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $4,000. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Mama they know TikTok में चलाना ये चार ने कन्ना दे कुटियां सीधा कारवार मेरे नु और कारवार है नु और कर बस ज़्यादा नहीं होगा थोड़ा बस आले पीस ला रही है कि बच्ची का तैयार हो गया साहब करा मेरा 20 साल का ਇਹਦੀ ਆ ਵੀਡੀਓ ਬਣਾ ਕੇ ਸਾਰੀ ਬਹੁਤ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਨਾਮ ਹੈ ਬੋਲੇ ਬੜੀ ਮਸ਼ਹੂਰ ਹੋਣੀ ਫੁੱਲੂ ਵਾਲ ਮਸ਼ਹੂਰ ਹੋਣਾ ਹਾਂ ਕੀ ਹੈ ਸਾਨ ਤਬਜਾ ਰਬਜਾ ਰਬਜਾ ਆਈ ਗਾਣਾ ਇਹ ਕੋਲ ਸੁਣ ਕੇ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਹਾਂ ਯਾਰ ਵਿੱਚ ਵਾਰ ਟਾਈਮ ਨਹੀਂ ਯਾ ਅਸਾਂ ਕੀ ਵਿਆਹ ਸੀ ਤੇ ਅਸੀਂ ਆਪਣਾ ਹੀ ਭੁੱਲ ਗਏ ਸਾਂ ਠੀਕ ਹੈ ਵਿੱਚ ਆ ਪੈਰ ਖਾਣ ਨੂੰ ਹੋਣਾ ਨਾ ਕਿੰਨਾ ਸੈਂਡੀ ਦਾ ਕੱਢ ਦੇ ਯਾਰ मम्मा ने नो TikTok में चलाना ये चार ने कन्ना दे कुटियां सीधा कारवार ਮੇਰੇ ਨੂੰ ਹੋਰ ਕਰਵਾ ਲੈ ਨੂੰ ਹੋਰ ਕਰ ਬਸ ਜ਼ਿਆਦਾ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੋਗਾ ਥੋੜਾ ਬਸ ਚਲੋ ਠੀਕ ਹੋ ਚਲੋ ਆਲੇ ਚ ਪੀਸ ਲਾ ਰਹੀ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਬੱਚੀ ਦਾ ਤਿਆਰ ਹੋ ਗਿਆ
ਸਾਹਲ ਕਰਾਂ ਮੇਰਾ 20 ਸਾਲ ਦਾ ਕਰਦੇ
ਇਹਦੀ ਆ ਵੀਡੀਓ ਬਣਾ ਕੇ ਸਾਰੀ ਬਹੁਤ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਨਾਮ ਹੈ ਬੋਲੇ ਬੜੀ ਮਸ਼ਹੂਰ ਹੋਣੀ
ਫੁੱਲੂ ਵਾਲ ਮਸ਼ਹੂਰ ਹੋਣਾ
ਹਾਂ ਕੀ ਹੈ ਸਾਨ ਤਬਜਾ
ਰਬਜਾ
ਰਬਜਾ ਆਈ ਗਾਣਾ ਇਹ ਕੋਲ ਸੁਣ ਕੇ ਸਾਨੂੰ
ਯਾ ਅਸਾਂ ਕੀ ਵਿਆਹ ਸੀ ਤੇ ਯਾ ਅਸੀਂ ਆਪਣਾ ਹੀ ਭੁੱਲ ਗਏ ਸਾਂ
ਠੀਕ ਹੈ ਵਿੱਚ ਆ ਪੈਰ ਖਾਣ ਨੂੰ ਹੋਣਾ ਨਾ ਕਿੰਨਾ ਸੈਂਡੀ ਦਾ ਕੱਢ ਦੇ ਯਾਰ